fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.
What's up, everybody? Is that song acceptable for you? Yeah, the sign's still not on the wall, but we've got the sign, chat. Fire sign, chat. Fire sign. Welcome, everybody, to the stream tonight. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. Glad to have you guys here tonight. We got a lot of people in the chat already. Thank you guys for being here. We have an awesome stream tonight, guys. Awesome double header stream. It's going to be amazing. We've got Thomas Bearden coming up in a minute. He's a fan favorite, I know. And we've also got Harold Sonny White. If you're not familiar with Harold Sonny White, then he is a NASA engineer and scientist who we've reviewed on some previous streams, some PDFs that have to do with warp drive from Harold Sonny White. I found a talk that is all about his work. So we're going to watch some of those. We're going to enjoy it. It's going to be an awesome night. Can't wait to get through it, guys. Hey, Boots, how's it going? Good to see you. Good to see some of my frequent visitors in the chat. I'm just going to, you know what we'll do from now on? We'll say hi to the first like 10 people that are in the chat every day. So if you want to shout out in the chat, just be one of the first 10 people in the chat. And you'll get a shout out. Boston Deadhead, nice to see you. Brandon Rudder, nice to see you. Little Who de Crunk, nice to see you as well. Flint Fancy, you've always been around. Ether Bunny's in the house. John Penozo, hi from Las Vegas, he says. Kelly for Connolly, good to see you. Excuse me. I might be allergic to beer, guys. I don't know. Maybe. John Wilson, energy from the vacuum, technical term for suck zone. Hey, Forbes chat. Awesome. And then Chadwell33 says hello. Anthony Williams, Luke, and Insuccessant Soul. Good to see you as well. And we'll just go do a couple more. His Highness, and then Z Jalapeno. Nice to see you guys. Groovy Gears asked for a Discord link. Yeah, I'll give you a Discord link. Let's do a quick Discord link, and then let's get to the fun stuff, guys. So next time, if you want to shout out, be one of the first 10 people in the chat. For the people who may say, oh, you don't tell me when you're going to go live. Well, yeah, that's true. I do kind of impromptu the lives. So I will try to get the lives to be a little bit more formal and ahead of time. There's just been a lot going on, guys. Yeah, hey, guys. What up, bro? Yo, everybody says. So I'm going to put a link to the Discord here. First 25 people can join. Lasts for about 1 day. Yeah, hit that bell. Hit the like up on YouTube for me. We appreciate it. So there you go for the Discord people. If you're in X and you can't see the YouTube chat, my chats only show up in YouTube, but I'll just go show it on the screen. So you can just take those letters at the end there, QF4WVUGE. That should get you into the Discord. Make sure you verify when you get in the Discord. Some people struggle with how you join the Discord. You have to verify, and then after like 10 minutes, it should let you message. After you verified, please introduce yourself. You don't have to say like your real name. You just kind of say like who you are, where you're from, or why you're interested. It's not really a hard rule, but we like to know who's in the Discord. Groovy Gears, thank you for making these sciences more public. I just had started school for engineering, and then these started popping up. Let's build a great future. So Groovy Gears, for you in engineering, what I want to say, I'm going to give you a personalized message. Because if you guys saw my message earlier where it's called Make America Great Again, I expect a lot of people to go, oh, Ashton's a MAGA. Well, the truth is making America great should be something that everybody supports. It shouldn't be something that's a catchphrase that is only tied to Donald Trump. And I've been clear in the past that I'm not really like a huge Donald Trump supporter, but I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. I'll let you guys know that right off the bat. But in order to make America great, we need to improve the science of the United States. All of our engineers are coming from India and China and the East. We need our own engineers. And the way we do that is we teach people that what they've been taught in school is incomplete. It's not wrong. It's just incomplete. I mean, in some cases it's wrong. But we need to create a comparative advantage in the United States because I feel like we have fallen really far behind the other countries. America is no longer the greatest country in the world. So that's my message for you, Groovy, is that whether or not you believe what I've been posting and talking through here, if you do listen to these discussions, you will find the path to the proper science that will explain our universe. And if you watch my last streams, my streams, you can see I'm very upfront about what I think is wrong and where I think the science can explain the missing gaps that we have, specifically in physics and engineering. So that goes for everybody else as well. Heather Birdie, nice to see you. Ramos, nice to see you guys as well. Yeah, stuff is busting loose for sure, guys. Arya says, I just watched the Alchemical Scientist review of Vortex math, so the time is perfect. Yeah, and everybody's got their own different approach to it in terms of revealing this information. And there are crossovers as well. Like Dutch Synths replied to one of my messages. Like Dutch Synths and Into Thin Air, these are two guys that also independently figured out about Thomas Bearden and the science, but they're taking their own paths down. Dutch Synths is doing earthquake predictions and things like that. Into Thin Air is doing weather prediction stuff, which I love. I love the idea. Like I would trust Into Thin Air for weather predictions more than I would trust my weatherman on TV. Weatherman on TV is just literally guessing. At least Into Thin Air has some science backing up his work. So, yeah. William Bill, man, thank you very much. Keep up the science and reality and stop giving more on debunkers or 15 minutes. Yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to address any more debunk stuff, but technically what I addressed today was just some of the existing debunks that were just being repackaged. And the only reason why I even posted the one related to Nick or whatever his name is, I forget, one of the dumb debunkers, was that it was a fabricated comparison that they used to show like the smoke being displaced from the plane. And we were able to like literally prove, or JK Philly fan was able to literally prove, you know what, I might even just show it. he was able to literally prove it's because of the stabilization software. Like this is how he like literally proved they fabricated a fake debunk, like no questions asked. You can just see with your own eyes here. So let me just really quick show. So thank you, William Bill, again for that donation, and thank you, Groovy Gears, for the donation up there as well. Now, and the only reason why I did this is I want people to see just transparently how much these people are willing to lie, which is we're going to talk about that in a second before we get into the videos, and then we're going to start looking at some of the videos related to the science that's out there. But so this one on the left here, you can see they claim that this smoke trail is displacing here, and this is their argument for why this must be fake. You see the plane's not moving, though. The smoke is moving, but the plane's not moving, right? You can see that very clearly in this comparison. Now, that's because this is stabilized. And the stabilization software is moving the smoke without moving the plane because it's seeing the smoke as part of the background. That's the same reason why the orbs move and the plane doesn't. But when you look at the real video, the non-falsified version, this is the real one. You can see that the plane moves as well. This is the exact same frames, by the way, guys. Exact same frames at the exact same second. So JK Philly fan asked Nick where the frames were, and then he found the frames. He did the exact same comparison, and you can see that the comparison here is falsified. The plane's not moving. That means that the editing software is manipulating what we're seeing here. Versus this one, this is the real one. And again, the only reason why you even see some difference here is because the camera's shaking. Like if you were to watch this in real time, which we'll show in a second, the camera's shaking. That's the reason why you're seeing this weird effect like this. And it's only like 24 frames per second. So if it was higher quality and more frame rate and probably not nighttime, then this would look a lot smoother. So this is just 100% a falsified comparison. So the whole, like, they call it jittery contrails, which is weird because they know it's not contrails. Like, this plane's too low. So, like, I don't get why the debunkers just, like, they're deliberately deceptive. They claim, oh, well, they claim it's contrails, and they're trying to claim it's contrails because they're trying to confuse people when, like, it's literally smoke, which gives me the thought that the debunkers know it's real, and they know that's smoke, and they don't even want to give me anything, right? They don't even want to admit that it has to be smoke because that would give more credit to the truth. So they're like deliberately dishonest, and they call it contrails, even though I have Nick on the record saying that contrails only form above 24,000 feet. Like, he's in other posts where you can see that. And this has to be low altitude because cumulus clouds only form at low altitudes. So it like literally cannot be contrails. I even went to the Metabunk forum where they try to debunk the videos, and somebody even pointed out to them that it wasn't contrails and that it was smoke. And they like downvoted them or gave them weird downvote emojis, which is like, these people aren't living in reality. Like I can't tell if it's disinformation or like they're just completely delusional, but anybody that looks at these two comparisons can clearly see that this is a falsified comparison here, that they've edited this to make it look like the plane's not moving, when in the real one, the plane does shift as well. So anyway, just pointing that out, guys. So don't like to give them any, attention, but there you go. But yeah, MAGA is a good, Make America Great Again is a good phrase, because the reality is it's what we need to do. We need to make America better. America sucks, man. The only thing that we are good at is the military. We've lost the economics. We've lost the social battle. We've lost the technological battle. All the other countries are pushing ahead of us. We have a better military, but what's the good of having a military up here where all the rest of your stuff in your country's down here and shit? Like, we should be great at everything. There's no reason not to be. And I think that's part of the reason why this technology has gotten so out of control, where the military has technology is magical while like everybody else is just like, we're just idiots sitting here arguing about social issues. Can this thing shoot down incoming missiles? Oh yeah. I think this thing can shoot down nukes. Like, yes, this is why we're not spending money on missile defense, because we don't give a shit about missile defense. We got orbs that can teleport an object back onto where it came from. Like, we can also probably just zap nukes right out of the sky the moment they take off and blow them up right on the location where they came from. So pretty wild. Also, before we get into this, I do have an announcement that I'm going to make. This is going to be an announcement of an announcement, guys. My first announcement of an announcement. I'm that guy. I'm doing that thing. Tomorrow, I'm going to have an announcement about the free energy device situation. So check out the stream tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about that. I may even dedicate that stream to that. I'm not sure. I'll ask as many questions as I answer as many questions as I can. So that's the announcement for the announcement. Tomorrow we'll have an announcement on that. It's not, this isn't like going to be earth shattering, but I'm just going to start giving the information out as it starts coming in. Not quite in real time, but pretty close. But I have been in contact with people behind the scenes. I think there's exciting stuff going on. I'm excited to spread that information with you guys. And what I do want to say is that there are already people who are going to start attacking me over get into the free energy market, if you want to call it that, or building a free energy market. Well, that's fine. I really don't care. End of the day, nobody's going to force anyone to buy anything that they don't want. And nothing that I will sell will not come without contingencies. So anything that I put my name to will have been 100%. I will have 100% confirmed that it's legit. There won't be so. And if I'm wrong, then you can attack me and sue me and whatever, right? So that's how far I'm willing to go with it. And this has never been about that. It's not like I had planned this out ahead of time or anything like that. Just organically, as we went through this investigation and found out about the missing plane and the technology, that led to free energy. That led to a lot of people coming forth saying that, oh, yeah, we can produce it. I truly believe that there's multiple ways to produce free energy, which is really just sucking energy from the vacuum. The problem is they're expensive. Making this kind of stuff is not going to be like it's not even going to be like a cell phone. It's it takes highly skilled people, and it takes very specific probably components to be able to produce. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to get it out there. And then there's going to be some other complexities too, I imagine, related to it. So that's all I can really share for you guys for now. Tomorrow, announcement related to it on tomorrow night's stream. So come check it out. And then yeah, like Eve says, make sure it's safe. That's another aspect as well. So I'll answer questions like that tomorrow on the stuff. But absolutely, I would want to make sure that it's safe, like not going to just blow up or give somebody cancer or anything like that, right? Like that's like the last thing you want. And I want it to be able to do what it's going to do. But if you've been following along, you already know that this stuff is possible because you've figured out that there's an ether. And if there's an ether of unlimited negative energy, the only question is, how do you tap into it? How do you engineer it? How do you make it possible? And also when it comes to criticism about how I'm going about it, you're free to have criticisms, as many criticisms as you want. I will explain that as well, although I already have, I think, kind of explain my thought process. But the way I'm doing it is the way I want to do it. It's the path I'm going to follow. You guys are all free to follow your own path. If you're able to figure out how to make a Overunity free energy device, then, go forward with it however you want, so. And I support everybody out there because truth is I want to get I want to make an industry out of it. Excuse me. And the last thing that I'll say related to it is that the people that we've been looking into, in my opinion, are the key. Thomas Bearden, I think, deserves a Nobel Prize. He's already passed away, but he probably should get one posthumously, whatever you say. After he's been dead, just because it's that big, guys. Yeah. So what Belief says is, you could sell the device and lease it for a reoccurring revenue. There's a lot of different things. That's the thing you have to realize. The people that understand economics, understand business, realize that it's not as simple as just putting the information out there. It's like, okay, well, how do you produce it? How do you get it out there? Even if you put it out on the internet, it would get discredited. They would have the YouTubers that they own go out there and say that it can't possibly work. They would even have people that claim that they were able to reproduce it, but that it doesn't work as well. We've seen that. Like people, if you guys look at my post about how power works, how power doesn't flow through lines, there's like 50 people saying that that's not how it works. But like people that are literally electricians and electrical engineers that don't understand that power doesn't flow through lines. Like it's not even a debate. We literally proved it. Show it. You can watch the Vertasium video. You can see the power clearly doesn't flow through lines. But people this is how ingrained the brainwashing is with respect to traditional education. And that's how it will work with free energy devices as well. So the only way that you can get it out there is you just prove that it works, right? That's the only way. Like, yep, here's a product that works. People that want to buy it can buy it. People that don't want to buy it don't have to buy it. Simple as that. And the reason why I like this compared to let's say the Rife machine, the medical healing, is that I don't want to be in a medical healing situation, because that's where you start to get a lot of liability. Like if you can't promote like things that can cure you medically, because then you start to run afoul of government regulation. With free energy, there's not really any regulations related to that, so it's gonna get interesting. Okay, you guys ready? Oh, so the other thing I want to say is, if you watched the space yesterday on the MH370 stuff, I'm going to go ahead and post the video. We're going to watch the videos while I do this as well. Where's the videos? Let's watch the drone video first so that you guys can see the drone video. Like, you can see the shake very accurately in this drone video. This is when there's no jittery contrails, jittery smoke. So I had a 4-hour space where I debated the main debunkers that were out there. And what I learned from that, guys, and this is just, again, my opinion, so I hope nobody's offended. I learned that the debunkers are real people. I think we have to remember that debunkers are real people. I don't personally believe they are disinformation agents. I know some people think that just from the way that they act. I didn't think that their arguments had a lot of merit from a logical and reason perspective. But they're real people, and this is how I judged them. And I hope that they don't take this personally. And if I'm wrong, then I can absolutely be wrong. I think that for Crishley, one thing that I noticed about her was that she was afraid to go on camera because she thought people were going to make fun of her looks. And I think she probably thinks that because that is what happens to people, especially women. But that is definitely not something that I would want to do to her. So what I want to say with respect to this is that when I, let's just call it like it is, attacked Rebecca Watson. Is that what her name is? Watson? Wilson? I don't know. The reason why I did that, it was out of anger, because she had made a video trying to humiliate and embarrass me. And I should never have done that. The first thing that I did was I looked for all of her weaknesses on the internet, and I found a lot. And I made fun of the fact that she had that she claimed that she had gotten allegations that somebody was going to sexually assault her. I made fun of that. I made fun of her looks. I should never have done any of those things. And I regretted it. And that was the reason why I deleted that video the very next morning, is that it was a bad look, and it's not the kind of person I wanted to be. And I did apologize, but I want to apologize again to her and say that I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Even though somebody comes at you, you should not lash out in anger. And I think that in part, people like Crishley were afraid that I would do something like that to them. And that's not what I would ever do. That's not the person I want to be. And I think we all have to be very careful about not lashing out at people's looks and just really in general at people when we don't agree with them. I think it's very easy to get into a mindset where we do that. And when we don't agree with somebody, or when somebody makes us angry, we want to retaliate against them. And so for Crishley, I want her to know that that's not the case. The only reason why I wanted her to come on screen is because I want people to have their own skin in the game when they are making their arguments. I want there to be a real person that you're looking at. Because when you talk to a real person, just like we did in that space yesterday, it's a lot harder to badmouth them and attack them in those ways. And I think that everybody would agree with that. And that leads me to T. Powell. I think that from T. Powell's perspective, he was lashing back out at me because he felt attacked when I made the post about him on his Reddit account from a Reddit post. And it felt like, and he basically told us that, is that was part of the reason why he was attacking me back. And you're going to see there's a common thread here. The common thread here is retaliating against people that you feel like attacked you. And so I think that it was good to talk to him because we were able to talk person to person and realize we're just normal human beings. And I think he's just a normal human being, and we're all emotional, normal human beings. And so I actually, what I'm going to do here, although this might be against my better judgment, is I'm going to unblock T. Powell right now because of that. Because even though we didn't agree with everything, I think that he was most rational out of them, and it was coming from it, I believe, in my opinion, from a good place. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and unblock him, even though I said I would never unblock anybody. T. Powell's been unblocked. I only ask that he does not try to engagement farm in my replies by posting hyperlinks to other debunker stuff. He can post his own opinions. That's fine. I don't mind. But I don't like this when people, I feel like when people are trying to engagement farm and link a lot of their own posts, even when it's people supporting stuff that I support, I don't like that behavior in general. But anyway, that's it. And then, and yeah, and Bruce says, well, he's been bad mouthing you nonstop. Yeah. Well, so what? So what? I don't really even care anymore. There's a lot of people bad mouthing me out there. And I'm not really too worried about it, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not going to change my life at all. This is what I'll say, guys, on the bad mouthing part real quick before I get to some of the last people, is the people that know this technology is real don't care if they get discredited or bad mouthed because they're making so much money. They just don't give a shit. So they just don't care. They know the technology is real. They know what they're doing behind the scenes. You guys have no idea how much money these people are making. And that's part of the reason. If you were making the money that they were making, you also wouldn't give a shit either. If people are bad mouthing you, you wouldn't care if they're editing your Wikipedia page to say that you're a crank. Because at the end of the day, most people are sheep anyway out there. And you just shrug and say, okay, well, I'll just go jump in my Scrooge McDuck pile of money and I'll get over it. So that's the truth, guys. Now, the last person as well is Grider. So Grider, my opinion of him is that he felt humiliated by when he made a post kind of attacking me, condescending me, and I put him on blast. It's I don't even know how many followers I had back then, probably over 100,000, 80 to 100,000 followers. Put him on blast, went into a space with him, potentially humiliated him in a space. And when somebody does that to you, it's a very personal type of attack. And that's why I think that he had retaliated as well. And why I think that he still retaliates, because he's trying to get even with me. And I think that this is true of a lot of the debunkers that are out there, is they're personally hurt. What I've seen is that a lot of them are emotionally invested in trying to prove the video's wrong, trying to prove that I'm some kind of scumbag or liar or whatever. So I want him to know that what I did was wrong. I probably shouldn't have done that in terms of trying to humiliate him. And I myself succumbed to trying to get even as well with people. And I think that trying to embarrass people is probably not the right way to go. So just wanted to point that out. Okay. So there you go, guys. That's my opinion of the debunkers from the debate space that we did. I think we're ready to get into the science now. I just wanted to get some of that off my chest in general. And as you guys have seen from my content, I pretty much never bring them up. I never bring them up by name for the most part. You'll see that my content, I'm just pushing the content out there that I want to push out there. And this is what I would say to the debunkers and everybody else, not even just the debunkers, but everybody. If you want to be somebody on social media that people follow and listen to, then you shouldn't spend any energy at all trying to personally attack other people. Nobody gravitates towards that. The content that I post that gets the least amount of engagement is the one where I specifically try to call people out, call people names, etc. There's a lot of people in the UFO community that don't realize this as well. Like, people will make these posts, so-and-so is a dickhead, so-and-so is a MAGA supporter or a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter. Like, all that stuff gets like the least amount of engagement. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see your personal little like fits that you throw. What people want to see is just content where they're going to learn, be engaged, that's exciting. So if you're somebody who's interested in building your following, building an account, having engagement, that's what I would consider doing. Also, I would say be whoever you are. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Just be your genuine self and be vulnerable. Put your feelings out there into your posts. Don't be afraid to be cringe. Just tell people how you truly feel, and don't be afraid of the backlash that you're going to get. And when you are true to yourself, you'll find that people gravitate towards you because people gravitate towards the truth. Okay. You guys ready to do this? So let's start with, so we're going to do two 2 videos. The first one's pretty short. It's Thomas Bearden. We're going to start with the Thomas Bearden going through the extracting energy, free energy, how extracting energy from the vacuum works. Yeah, I got to get this sign up on the wall. Oh, God damn, it looks so good, though. It looks so good, guys. When I turn off the lights, too, it looks even better. It just looks so good, man. Let's shout out that guy one more time as well. So one more shout out to... I'll probably do one more after I finally get it on the wall as well. To Drippy Goo. Drippy Goo stepped up to make this sign for me. Gave me a discount compared to what I was going to get otherwise. And his email address, if you want any designs, signs, prints, decals, anything, they can do all of it. He did this in just like a couple days for me as well. Gave me everything to put it on the wall as well. I don't know how to drill holes in the wall. skunkworksufo@gmail.com. That's where you can inquire if you want awesome signs, things like that. skunkworksufo@gmail.com. So check that out if you guys are interested. Give him some business, support the 4 Orbeez, support the community that's out there. Appreciate you guys. Okay. So one thing I'm going to say is that, and Danny McBride is hilarious. That is a true statement. That is a true statement there. Savage one. Since I'm not going to be able to tell you guys exactly how to, produce these devices, but I can explain the scientific concepts, and I'm learning at the same time. Like I'm not some engineering genius. I'm learning and I'm figuring out the science that's been suppressed and putting the pieces together. So that's what I'm going to do with you guys. And even after, if this Overunity business works out, I still want to continue to do that because I just want to share the information. I also think it's fun. I love science. So I hope you guys are here and you guys are enjoying that as well. That's going to be the point of what we're going to be doing. And then hopefully this inspires you. So inspires people who like the person who was in the chat earlier that, they're going to be, and they want to be an engineer and they want to learn how to do this themselves. I hope that you guys are the future of, America's best engineering elite. And maybe you'll have contracts with, the private defense contractors in the future. Thank you, Jamal, as well. Make the world free again so we can even handle the truth. Yeah, we have a big problem right now where we're in this post-truth world. And that's part of the reason why people kind of attack people that say the truth, because they've been brainwashed into so many lies. That I used to say this a lot, is that people don't get angry when they get told a lie. When you get told something that is not true, you just shrug your shoulders. Someone tells me that the sky is green or purple or red. That's not going to make me angry. I just move on. I shrug and laugh. Okay. If somebody tells you something that is true that you don't want to believe, that's what gets people angry. The truth that people don't want to believe is what makes people angry out there. When you tell people the MH370 videos are real and you show them a massive amount of evidence and you show them 2 videos. Oh, sorry. I said we would show the other one and we didn't. Let me show the other one while I'm saying this. It's only a minute long anyway. Oh, whoops. That's not even the right. Is that even the right one? I don't think that's the right one. This one. Okay. When you show the massive amount of evidence, I mean, we're looking at coordinates, we're looking at a citric session, we're looking at crop screen, we're looking at real clouds here. When you show them a massive amount of evidence, that's what upsets people. The truth that people don't want to believe, that's what gets people angry. And I think you'll see this not just with the MH370 videos, but with everything that's out there. I think if we go back to COVID, for example, I'm not a big mask proponent. If you tell somebody a mask doesn't work, they get super angry. Why would you get angry if someone tells you your mask works? If you think a mask works and somebody tells you it doesn't, why would that get you angry? You would just say, "Oh, okay, huh?" But if you really, in the back of your mind, you question whether or not it works, and somebody's telling you it doesn't, and the authority has told you that that's the only difference between you and dying from a cold virus, then that would definitely make you angry. And yeah, so I think that we all have to look at our cognitive biases and try to get past them as best as we can, because the truth is we all have to try to be better than the person that we were yesterday. And if we do that, I think we'll make a better world and we'll make a better country. Oh boy. Minnesota just got destroyed. Feels bad. Okay. Let's go ahead and watch the video. First video, guys, Thomas Bearden, energy from the vacuum. I don't think there's a way.
What do we mean by equilibrium conditions.
Is there no way to do fast forward on this? Man, if somebody knows how StreamYard works. I don't see. Let me see what this does. Nope. Okay. Guess we're going to watch it in normal speed, guys. Okay, so here we go, guys. Free energy from the vacuum. Let's try to learn more about how to extract energy from the ether, the vacuum, whatever you want to call it.
Conditions and non-equilibrium and entropy and negative entropy is not really that complicated, but it's an area where a mystique has grown around it because they really struggled for 100 years to properly express things. Some of them they're still struggling with. But basically, let's start with entropy. What we mean with entropy, it originally was just dissipated potential. That's all it was. And it meant I'm dissipating some energy that the system previously had under its control and could use.
So right off the bat, he's going to start to explain what is entropy, what even is negative energy. People would say that entropy is complexity, just anything that's getting more complicated. And I think that trying to understand the concepts of entropy and negative energy are going to be really important to be able to understand how you can extract energy from it. Also, I want to thank real quick Alt Protestant for the donation. Appreciate it. Again, you guys definitely don't have to donate to me to get my attention or anything like that. If you do want to donate, I appreciate it. I am considering setting up subscriptions where I'll do like maybe a post a day or something like that just to my subscribers, just like maybe like an inside look at the thought process. I haven't really decided yet though, so stay tuned.
It now no longer has that much energy. And all that entropy is a measure of that energy that that's out of your control. Maybe you used it to power the load, or maybe it went out in losses or whatever, but you lost control of it and you can no longer use it. You didn't destroy the energy, it's still out there. But you can't use it anymore in the system. That's all entropy is. It's nothing magic, nothing mystical or anything. It's a measure of the energy the system had and could control and use, but it no longer can do that with it.
So that's interesting. So entropy is the extra energy that was lost. So we can generate extra energy, but we didn't suck it in. We weren't able to utilize it. I think that's a good way to think about it.
That's how much it's given up. By the same token, if you want to be consistent, negative entropy would be when you give it some more energy which it can control and which it can use, because now it has additional energy. So its entropy has decreased from what it just was when it had lost all the other and no replenishment.
So think of it this way. If you have your phone, it's using energy up, and the energy is changing to heat energy, and your phone is heating up, or your computer, that's entropy being lost out. Heat is being dissipated out that it's not efficiently using because the electrons are hitting the atoms and they're heating up. So that's generally where the heat comes from in electronics. So what he's saying is negative entropy is taking energy back into the system. So if heat is being lost, potentially you're going to have a cooling effect, I would say, if you have the exact opposite with a negative entropy system.
So, but I involved
which is interesting because then it brings up the second law of thermodynamics, which would say heat always flows to cold. Now, this would be like the inverse. You have cold flowing to heat. Now you can imagine the idea of a negative entropy system, one that's taking energy into it, is actually cooling down instead of heating up. Kind of a cool idea, huh?
Called a non-equilibrium condition. I actually opened that system, although they use the term open in a very restricted sense in thermodynamics. I need to change that. But I opened that system and I allowed some energy to freely flow in there and the system to catch it free. Once it gets in there, it doesn't matter who furnished the energy. I furnished it, nature furnished it, the vacuum furnished it, whatever furnished it. As far as the system is concerned, I just reduced my entropy because now I have more energy again under my control. And I just had a negative entropy operation. So negative entropy is not anything mystical either. It's just the acquisition by the system of more energy that it does control and use. That's all.
So honestly, that really simplifies things for me. If you say negative entropy allows for more energy that the system didn't have before, now what is negative energy? Negative energy is just the location where the additional energy is coming from into your system. You're taking the energy from the ether. That's why the ether is negative energy, unlimited negative energy. The idea of negative energy is just simply energy that has not been put into your system yet. Think about it that way, right?
All it is, a measure of that. If you have a system in equilibrium, it's already sunk as low as it can use any energy. All the energy it could use, it's gotten rid of, and it's a condition of maximum entropy. Look at all the energy I had when I wasn't in equilibrium. Now I've lost all of it. So I don't have any more to lose, maximum entropy. But if I depart from equilibrium, what I mean is I allow this flow now to come in and extra energy exchange that I can grab and use. So I lower the amount that's lost as far as the system is concerned. It now has some extra.
So non-equilibrium would be saying that we're like literally pulling in more energy. It's not a one-to-one system anymore. Now we're taking in more energy, negative entropy into our system, which is more energy that we can now use. So it's no longer an equilibrium system.
So as far as the system,
this is where I think Dave Rossi would mention the opening Pac-Man's mouth to the outside energy. This is actually helping me understand it. Like, I think I literally just learned negative energy and negative entropy logically and can explain it now.
is concerned, its entropy decreased. I haven't lost as much now, really, because I've got all this new replenished. And so I now have it available again. That's all it says. There has been more fuss and fury and raging and absolutism and name calling and everything in the world about entropy and negative entropy. And about 95% of it is foolishness. It's people who haven't looked at what the concept really means and nothing else. Or you just assume equilibrium. Second law, as it's written, assumes the system is in equilibrium. It's already reached maximum entropy stage. So obviously with that, if it's in equilibrium and nothing else is ever going to come in, the equilibrium is not going to be broke.
Wow. Okay. I do understand it now. Holy shit, chat. I get it now. Now I understand why it's about opening Pac-Man's mouth. Equilibrium is Pac-Man's mouth being closed. You can't get more energy in than you put out. That's equilibrium. This is where science is wrong, is that this is wrong. You can open up the system and create a non-equilibrium system that's taking energy from the outside, from the ether, from the vacuum. And that's how you can get your negative energy to become real energy, or your negative entropy system, where now from conventional theory would break the second law of thermodynamics. But it's not, because you're having a non-equilibrium system. The second law of thermodynamics only applies to equilibrium systems. In fact, I'm going to write this down. God, this is probably the video you should watch first. So if you guys are brand new here, this is William, why do you want to be removed as a moderator, man? Just, can you not help yourself? Or I don't know why you want to be removed as a moderator. You're fine, buddy. This is the video you want to watch first, because you want to understand the concepts first. And this is what he's explaining right here, right now. Yeah, William, I don't know. You don't have to do anything as a moderator, so I'm not sure what the problem is. But if you're struggling, just go to sleep or something, man. There's no problem.
You're not going to reduce the entropy. It's already lost. So it says it very nicely. It says you can either, the only thing you can do with the entropy is have it increase, or else you can keep it the same. Because you're never allowing anything else to come in. That's all that means. It has no mysticism at all. It's not a magic law of nature that you can't break. Every time you flip a light switch, you violate the second law of thermodynamics. And when you violate the second law, that doesn't mean you violate the first law. You do not violate conservation of energy if something gives you the energy.
Wow. Yeah, we are going to break the first and second laws. But we're not really breaking it like he says. So yeah, once again, equilibrium state only refers to a closed system. If your system is opened up, then you have a non-equilibrium state. This is how you're able to achieve over unity. This is why the second law of thermodynamics is not, it seems like it's being violated, but it's not really. This is where it's almost like we've painted ourselves into a box with our conventional way of thinking. And all we have to do is think outside the box, and we can realize that we're not really breaking the laws. the equations don't define how reality works. Reality works, and then we have to write the equations to understand it. And this is where a lot of the brainwashing comes into play, where if you only learn that what is written on paper is the truth, then you are ignoring how things actually work. That's the main thing. Yeah, have a good night, Bill, or William. Have a good night, man. You can take off. There's no problem, brother.
So if you take that to heart, even from thermodynamics, you go around looking for effects or phenomenology or things that are known that do give you some energy. Well, we did this early on. Sailboat, the wind will give you energy. So you can happily sail your sailboat in total violation of the second law of thermodynamics and sail right on around the world, and very simply. A windmill. It's continually receiving energy in a form we well understand. Wind. We understand wind because it blows on us all the time. And it'll blow us down if it gets strong enough. So we understand that the windmill continually gets energy into it from its environment because the wind gives it to it. We don't have to pay for it as long as it gets it. And the windmill very happily runs along, violating the heck out of the second law of thermodynamics. It does not violate the first law. Every bit of energy that it gets in, what it wastes and what it actually gives you in the load, is absolutely put into it, but it's put in free by the environment.
For the record, I can't change the volume, unfortunately. This is it. Yeah, what he just said, you guys wanted explanations. He just gave you the explanations. Think of a windmill. Where's the energy coming from the windmill? It's coming from the wind. It's coming from the medium. The wind is providing the energy. In a solar power plant, in a solar panel, the sun is providing the energy. Is that violating the second law of thermodynamics? No. Your system is opened up. You're getting your energy from the outside. And what conventional people would say was, well, your system includes the sun. Your system includes the wind. Well, that's a different way of looking at it. But traditionally, you would have a circuit and you have power, and your power is providing the energy. And you would say, okay, now you have this closed circuit. Well, so do the same thing when you do with the wind, or when you do with the sun, and take your system, and now do that with the ether. Well, the ether is unlimited energy. So once you include the ether into your system, now you have access to negative entropy.
So many things have been made absolute, which shouldn't be absolute at all. We should go back.
So the difference is this, though, is to Yusuf, they aren't violating the first law. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed. They are violating the second law because the energy is coming from the outside. The thing that's causing the energy, the windmills to blow, the sun to produce light onto the solar panels, you could argue that that's violating the second law, that you need to have an open system. But they're not violating the first one because the energy they get out is equivalent to the energy that's come in. Now, the difference between these devices is that if your source is unlimited, those sources are limited by the wind blowing. They're limited by how much production the sun produces on the solar panels. The ether has unlimited negative energy. So the difference there is you're going to be violating the first law of conservation of energy, because with the ether, you're producing unlimited amounts of energy, where it's like having a tap that you can just turn on and you can flow. You can make the wind blow whenever you want. You can increase the intensity of the sun. That's the difference between solar panels and wind power and free energy devices.
To the simple meaning, what we're really talking about when we say, I've lost energy control of so much energy. And every real system has losses that's operating and doing things and doing work. It has losses. And you do lose and you do gain in entropy that way because you...
Oh, and I want to address a couple of comments here. Yeah, so here's the thing. The wind energy is harnessed from a windmill, is produced from a larger system. But your system is not some structured thing that you can say. Like, it's just... You're using that concept abstractly. You're saying your system includes all of the air in the earth that is potentially blowing all the time. And in the other case, you would say you call the movement of the air represents a natural flow of energy. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? A natural flow of energy. What's natural or unnatural? Why would the ether not be natural? The ether is natural too. There is an ether that has unlimited negative energy. That's natural. So use this same logical concept and say, if you're going to include all the wind in your wind system and you're going to say that that's part of the second law of thermodynamics, then use that same concept with the ether. This is the same idea. So what he's saying here is that you're opening your system up to the wind to allow that into your system. We're opening our system up to allow the ether. This is how free energy works. Whether or not you believe it or not doesn't matter. I'm just trying to teach you the concepts. And this is here as well, is that it's not inherently in accordance with the second law. That's the difference. What you're doing is you're logically changing the definition in your head to make it in accordance with it. So again, these things are not black and white. That's the difference. Because if you were to make an electrical circuit with a battery, it would be completely different. If you take an electric circuit with a battery and a light, and you compare that to the wind power, those are not the same types of things. What you've done is you've changed the definition of your system. Right? Big difference. Now it is in accordance of this type of example of wind is not in violation of conservation of energy, because in conservation of energy, you can't produce more energy out than the wind is producing. You can't get more energy out than the sun is producing. With the ether, the sun in this case, or the wind in this case, is unlimited. Therefore, you can get basically unlimited energy. So you do have to redefine conservation of energy. You have to reimagine conservation of second law of thermodynamics. Not conservation of it, but second law of thermodynamics has to be reimagined.
Lose control of energy. Big deal. All you have to do is see that the energy keeps getting input to it and replenished. And it'll very happily keep replenishing the energy control that it lost, and that's negative entropy. If it's in a steady state condition, it's producing negative energy as fast as it's producing positive energy. If you're drilling in a piece of wood with a drill at a steady rate and doing steady work, you're violating the heck out of the second law. You're doing negative entropy all the time and positive entropy at an equal rate. You have a non-equilibrium steady state condition. There's a special thermodynamics branch just for non-equilibrium systems. So you don't take the thermodynamics of equilibrium systems and start beating people over the head that are using non-equilibrium systems, because it doesn't even apply. So one thing we need to do is for every...
So hold on. Bernie, I'm not going to have other people join tonight, but maybe tomorrow we can consider it. So you can, you should have my email. But you know, if you want to do, we can set up another one this weekend or tomorrow or something like that. But for tonight, I'm not really feeling like doing a whole panel. I don't want to be going for hours. I got a couple of specific videos I want to go through tonight. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Bernie, for being here.
Everybody to get straight on the thermodynamics they're talking about, and realize that when we're using charges in electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic potentials, we're using flows of energy, and we automatically have a non-equilibrium system. We are permitted to violate the second law of thermodynamics. Take a good textbook in non-equilibrium thermodynamics, Causality and Prigogine, modern thermodynamics, and they cover everything on that.
This is what non-equilibrium all means, huh? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. That's why Salvatore Pais wanted us to read Prigogine. Wow. Because he knew non-equilibrium systems. Wow. Salvatore Pais gave us so many hints, guys. Like, holy shit. God, I can't believe this is all real, and the whole world is brainwashed to not listen to it. Incredible, man. This is like the fundamental equivalent of fake news, but like, you know, like what we know of as fake news. Like traditional education is fundamentally the equivalent of fake news, but people just don't understand the science because it just goes over their head. So they don't even realize that it's just right out there. The real answer is just right there. It's not even that complicated.
On the dissipative systems. You will find in one area, on page 459 as a matter of fact, you will find they list the areas already known and recognized.
Wait, what page did he say?
Thermodynamics and Prigogine, modern thermodynamics. And they...
Let me write that down.
Cover everything on down to dissipative systems. You will find in one area, on page 459 as a matter of fact, you will find they list the areas already known and recognized by thermodynamicists themselves as violating the second law. One of these is very sharp gradients. Just make sharp pulses, sharp gradients. And you mess with the vacuum, you mess with whether the electrons stay in the Dirac holes and all kinds of things, and you involve excess energy inputs to your system, and you can violate permissibly the second law by a simpler thing as sharp pulses. Let's talk about motors.
So you enter more energy into your system and you're technically violating the second law. Interesting. Yeah, no, I understand now. I actually just get it now. 1 foot N5D, $20 donation. Thank you very much. Do you have Cash App so I can support you without having to give this effing platform my money? I do have Cash App. I guess you're right. It probably would be better if you do that. If you follow me if you're in the Discord or if you follow me on Twitter and I follow you back, you can DM me if you really insist on giving me money and you don't want to give it on the YouTube. I will hand you my Cash App so you can do that. Thank you very much for that donation. Appreciate it. Although, once again, I'm not really trying to do this to solicit donations. Although, if I end up losing my job over this, which we might be teetering on that, then I don't know. We'll see. I guess this will become my income. Bernie, I'm not sure yet. Bernie, send me an email. We'll work it out tomorrow, man. Not really sure. But yeah, also related to that, I am probably going to have to focus more on my job during the daytime hours so that I can keep my job as long as possible. And pull back a little bit from Twitter. We'll see though. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, let's keep going.
And why we don't violate laws like that, and why we don't go over unity, why we don't produce more energy out in a motor than we put in. And let's talk about how to do it, where we will do that.
Okay, so we're going to learn how to do it, guys. Here we go. Yeah, it's been difficult, guys. It's exhausting to do all these streams at night after working all day. So it's tough, man. Yeah, I got in trouble for that debate actually as well because my profile is so big now that people at work are noticing. So I think they saw me in that space, and I got in trouble actually because I ended up going for like 4 hours, even though it was in the afternoon. But whatever, it is what it is.
If I have a standard, what's called linear magnetic motor, I'm going to make a very simple one in concept here. Imagine two rails running. Instead of parallel, they diverge just a little bit as they run, and they're about this long. So these rails are not quite parallel. They are diverging just a bit. But the rails are really the North Pole heads of a bunch of magnets on each side, North Poles facing in. So what I really have...
Okay, so we've got two rails, and we got North Poles facing in on both sides. I think this is going to be interesting. Let's get that. And yeah, don't worry about me, guys. I'm sure I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. Like I've had a good job for a long time, and if I were to lose it or whatever, it's my own fault anyway. I shouldn't have joined that space, and I stayed way too long. But it's whatever.
Is this rail, this gradually spreading gap between actually two long linear North Poles. If I stick another North Pole in this rail, in this slot, this linear magnetic motor, what will happen is it will develop a thrust because just ahead of it, there's less, the North Poles are further apart, and there's less North polarity density there than there is here. That looks like a little bitty South Pole, and it's a North Pole, so it'll get attracted that way. This little car that I put with this little North Pole on it, for example, will then accelerate right on through this linear magnetic motor. That's a piece of cake. It's in every electrical engineering set of handbooks and everything else. And plenty of experts on linear motors. Okay, let's say that we want to make that a closed loop system and we want to make that thing run itself. Suppose I take this rail, this gradually diverging rail of opposing magnets, and I turn it in a circle and I almost close it.
So gradually diverting. So I think what he's saying is you make it so it's like triangle shape like this, and then you would have your rail, and it's gonna, you have your car in between is gonna, there's gonna be a thrust automatically when it's shaped like that. That's what I think I understand. But
I leave a little gap. Well, the fact is the rails are diverging just a little bit all the way around, and if I have a rotor, the little car, the little magnet now, the North Pole is on the end of a rotor. The rotor will accelerate all the way around to where this gap is. Continuous acceleration, building up torque, building up angular momentum, everything else, picking up stored energy. Now, however, I have a problem. That's the forward MMF region.
Bernie, so I'm going to tell you something right now. I just learned how it works. I just figured it out right now from listening to this. I get it now. Now, that doesn't mean I know exactly how to do it, but I understand the concept. What he just said right there, I think is the answer personally. Seems to make sense.
Magnetomotive force region. This little gap is the back MMF region, where I'm now against the field. So suddenly, if I allow this thing to just go on through the gap, I'll pay back everything I gained, and I'll have some losses in the systems. This system will not run. I could give it a big crank to start, and it would just run right down. And that's it, and stop.
I'm gonna listen to that one more time. This is really
acceleration.
important, guys.
Building up torque, building up angular momentum, everything else. Picking up stored energy. Now, however, I have a problem. That's the forward MMF region, magnetomotive force region. This little gap is the back MMF region, where I'm now against the field. So suddenly, if I allow this thing to just go on through the gap, I'll pay back everything I gained, and I'll have some losses in the systems. This system will not run. I could give it a big crank to start, and it would just run right down. And that's it, and stop. Well, I would rather not do that. What makes it stop? What makes it stop is that the back MMF is the same as the forward MMF, and I'm licked before I start. That's Lorentz symmetrical regauging, and I have built a system which, if I leave it like that, will enforce, self-enforce Lorentz symmetrical regauging. I'm never going to get an extra watt out of that system. In fact, I won't quite get out all I put in because it does have some friction in the bearings and it fights the air resistance.
Okay, so he just explained why all the videos that you see online that try to use magnets don't work, because eventually they're going to slow down. Eventually they would end up slowing down. Now let's see how he answers it.
So I lose a little bit. It will always be a coefficient of performance less than 1.0. Well, people like Takahashi looked at that and they said, the problem is, suppose I could get rid of this back MMF section.
We better write this guy down. Takahashi. So the issue, whatever the back MMF, what does MMF stand for, chat? Something magnetofrequency. So if you get rid of the part that slows it down, then your thing is just going to run forever. That's what it sounds like.
If I could do that, he wasn't saying I would violate Lorentz symmetrical condition, but he would. He would. That's what you would do. And then you could have a self-powering, self-rotating system. Remember, all the energy is coming out of the vacuum through the dipolarities. It isn't coming out of what we put in or anything like that. So what we would do, or what Takahashi did, is he put a pole piece, a little piece of metal like an inverted T with a handle on it sticking up outside that crosses that gap. And he put a little coil on that handle. And he put a little tiny, tiny current just barely going through that coil. Now he's paying for that. He's paying a little bit, not much current. And as this magnet, which is accelerating around through the rotor, through the forward MMF, as it's just entering this zone, this overlaps that end of the forward MMF a little bit, you sharply break that current that's going into the coil on the...
Okay, I get it. I get it conceptually. Magnetomotive force or momentum force. So you get your magnets set up so that it starts up, but then there's some limitation that causes it to slow down. So the way you get around that is you create some kind of current, electromagnetic current. It looks like a gap between it that reduces that issue or removes that issue. I need to understand exactly how.
Inverted T pole piece. What that does is invokes Lenz's law. Fortunately, that one's in the electrical engineering textbook, and so the electrical engineer understands what I'm saying. And momentarily, there is a surge of increase in the current. Now, if you had that arranged so the field that it makes is in opposition to the EMF field, momentarily you have a very strong field, a much stronger field up here, that's stronger than the back MMF, and you convert it to forward MMF. You paid a little for it, but nothing like what you have for just a moment. Sharp gradients, right? can violate the second law of thermodynamics. That's already proven in non-equilibrium thermodynamics. I don't have to go reprove it. So what happens is the thing accelerates right on through what had just been the back MMF. Now the next instant it's back MMF again, but it's okay. Back MF doesn't do anything to me if I don't let it affect me, if I don't let it ever be able to influence me. So what I did, I skimmed right by it when it had no effect on me. And in fact, the temporary field that we had made was in fact an accelerating field. I paid a little bit, but I got a motor which overall I gained. And now I'm in COP greater than 1. I have to charge myself for what I feed the coil. Everything else is permanent magnets. But that engine will rotate and produce much more power that you can put a generator on the shaft and so forth than you have to furnish to the trickle charge to your pole piece. And if you use very efficient switching, you've got to be very efficient here, but well within the state of the art. Any electrical engineering department can easily build a COP greater than 1 Takahashi motor. The fact that they do not do so is absolutely inexplicable. Everything we said is in the physics book already.
Well, chat. Bernie says it comes out as a signal monopole DC current static electricity, also known as cold electricity, but that is 3-phase with ground and antenna static. I'm not sure what all that means, but yeah, basically the idea that you're going to add you're going to pay for that. So the way you're going to break the issue of it slowing down is you're going to use a little bit of electricity to basically allow it to continue to accelerate instead of slowing down. But you're still using far less electricity than it's producing. That's going to allow your coefficient performance greater than 1. Wow. This was probably the most important free energy video that we've ever watched.
How known is Takahashi's work?
He's got a patent on it, and so you can go get a copy of the patent.
Patented
you can
it.
Find out exactly how he did it in the patent and so forth. And that motor will work, and any electrical engineering department in the United States and any national laboratory can build it.
It's a Japanese patent, isn't it?
It's a Japanese patent, but they also, I think there's a U.S. patent. Part of it is under
What's
a
it
U.S.
called?
patent.
Someone
But
find me that patent.
Anyway, this is
Find me that patent, chat.
unit which could easily be built at our universities, in our national labs and everything, and then settle this argument once and for all.
Okay, chat. Find me that patent. We're definitely going to be posting that patent. Takahashi, right? Is that what it was? Some kind of free energy motor? If anyone can find me the name of it or before the stream is over or a link, please let me know if any of the mods find it. Also post that in our Discord if you can. Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, Takahashi, I think it's spelled right here. Takahashi motor. Well, let me just Google it. Takahashi motor. So what you guys are going to realize is that there's multiple ways to pull off free energy, and people have probably figured it out long ago. And then hopefully this helps you understand my approach, right? The issue isn't having the information be out there. The information's already out there. You just listen to Thomas Bearden explain it to you. This is as close as to putting it on the blockchain as we're going to get. The question you should be asking is, if the information's already out there, why doesn't it exist? Then you'll begin to understand why Ashton wants to commercialize it. Because it's not an issue of the information being out there. This is the biggest misconception that people have. They think that if you just put the information out there, the product will exist. It's not true. Product's always been out there. It's always been possible to be out there. And it makes you question, are there people not already using it? Just pointing that out, guys. Hey, Yogo Denise, nice to see you. I'm just going to say for CW, it is for all intents and purposes, infinite. If anyone can find me that energy generator, please let me know. Okay. And we will be having some more exciting news over the next couple days, probably starting tomorrow, related to some of the stuff that I've been trying to make happen in the background. Oh, looks like somebody found it. Let me see if I can find that patent real quick, guys. And then we're gonna go straight to the next one because I want to go to sleep tonight. 068 09211 6D2. Patent. So someone, if the admins can pull that link up, for some reason I can't copy and paste this link. Did I get it wrong? 1750680921162. Doesn't show up for me. Yeah, it doesn't pop up. I don't know. Anyway, if one of the admins can find it for me, let me know. Otherwise, we'll get to that one next time, or I'll show it in the stream. Okay, I'm going to do another Discord invite before we get to the next video. The next video is a bit longer. We might skip ahead some parts of it. So the next video that we plan on looking at is going to be warp drive engineering with Harold Sonny White, who did experiments that showed, I believe, experimentally, that warp drive is 100% possible. This video is from 10 years old. Also, guys, a lot of people ask me, can you send me the link? Just type the stuff in, man. Like, there's literally an image of what the video is called in these usually. So you should be able to find this yourselves. A lot of people you got to do a little bit of your own work, man. Sorry, like when I'm streaming, I don't have time to dig up all the links for everybody. So that one was Thomas Bearden, Energy from the Vacuum. I'm sure if you Google that, you will find the link to that video. Shouldn't be hard. This one is Dr. Harold Sonny White, Eagle Works Laboratories, Advanced Propulsion. So this is literally a NASA video, like quite literally. Permanent magnet motor, Takahashi permanent magnet motor. I'll look that up later. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. We did find a blog of it. Weirdly, I can't find. Wow, yeah. So here is a study. Let's look at this real quick. Let's see what this study claims. This paper presents power generation motor, regenerative mode. It is observed that when the motor operates as a generator, the ERU will receive DC voltage from the elevator inverter system, then convert to AC voltage that can be fed into the grid system. That's it. What are the conclusions? Is a concept that can be connected to existing elevator system used using permanent magnet motors. This investigated ERU can be applied for future use. Seems to claim that it works. Power output can be fed back into space. Wow. Well, there you guys go. Free energy is possible. Just gave you the proof. That's a scientific paper right there. Well, didn't think we were going to find it that fast, but that's pretty awesome. Overunity is possible, guys. You just saw a scientific paper I posted there. You guys can find that paper yourselves. Please don't ask me for the link. And yeah, pretty sweet. One sec. God, there's a lot of... Okay, so we show that free energy is possible. Thomas Bearden just explained it to you. We have a patent and a scientific paper that's out there related to Takahashi's motor. And now we're going to go look at the Harold Sonny White. Here's your thing, Director Colloquium 2014. I believe this was like November 2014, so this was after the plane disappeared. And this is Dr. Harold Sonny White, and he's going over warp drive. Takahashi was also working on semiconductors. Yeah, this is... Just for the record, the MH370. Oh, hold on. For the record, the MH370 videos are real. The semiconductor employees are definitely related to the disappearance of the plane. Free energy is possible. Free energy is real. Warp drive is real. Most people in the public sphere are so light years behind what is possible that it's actually just kind of sad, honestly. And I want to say that I would have never imagined that any of this is real a year ago, and that's why this is an awakening. When you go through this, is like you guys are watching, you're literally being woken up into what's actually possible. And there's many people that are just sheep in this world that I think you could argue that many people in this world are not even conscious. I would say that you could argue many human beings have absolutely no difference whatsoever between an animal, at least until they get woken up. But otherwise, they're just going through the motions, which is sad, but seems to be the true state of our reality.
I'm a science fiction fan, and I've long felt that this agency ought to be on our way to the stars. So, and we are. But I think some of the things you're going to hear today may get us there a lot faster. So this is, I think it's the penultimate talk in the summer series. This is a series to celebrate NASA AIM's 75th anniversary.
Okay, I'm definitely skipping ahead of this part.
Here.
I don't need to listen to the intro.
So I think I got the bug at a very early.
This is him right here. Honestly, I don't really care about his intro stuff either. We're just going to get right into it.
Things like Hall thrusters into human spaceflight platforms. You see on the top left there, the International Space Station. We looked at using Hall thrusters to provide some drag makeup. So we spent some time trying to figure out how to integrate those onto the space station. Typically in human spaceflight, we always think of rockets that have nozzles and they make a lot of smoke and a lot of noise and have a thrust-to-weight ratio greater than 1. So it took a little bit of time and effort to help people overcome the perspective that low thrust might not necessarily be something that we can use, but it turns out it really can help with human space exploration. And so we looked at several other things about using low thrust in space propulsion systems. On the bottom right, you see a concept that looked at trying to use Hall thrusters with some assets in the Earth-Moon Lagrange point area. This was kind of a precursor to.
So he goes through several different ways to produce thrust from the vacuum here. And when he's talking about these thrusters, he's talking about this idea of pushing off from the vacuum. This is like Star Trek impulse drive, EM drive, stuff like that. Was it Tracy Scott asked, how do you join Discord? So you get Discord, you press the join server button, then you put in either this full code that you see right here or just these last digits behind the Discord, and that will give you an invite. When you're in the server, then you have to go to the verification channel and verify. If you struggle, then just Google how to join Discord. Discord seems complicated. Once you figure it out, it's not that hard. For the record, people that are new to Discord, the very first thing you generally want to do is turn off all the notifications for all the channels. Usually you can do that at the server level. It turns off all the notifications. Otherwise, every time you get a message, your phone's blowing up. So just heads up.
The asteroid mission. And we also did some work with DARPA to kind of think about ways that we might be able to do some collaborative efforts. But these are all concepts that try and address getting out of low Earth orbit into cis-translunar space, maybe one day out to Mars. It's at 1.5 AU. But what if we want to go through and explore the rest of the solar system? What if we want to get out to some other locations with people in the outer solar system? What if we really want to try and go to some place that's even further, some type of an interstellar destination? I think you have a talk on Kepler in a couple of days. And Kepler is identifying a lot of very neat things that are out there, and we're finding out that there's a lot of planets out there. And our solar system is not unique from the standpoint that it has bodies that orbit the sun. So that tends to make you think about what does it take to actually accomplish that. So let's segue into a much lower TRL discussion. I'll talk about two things. A little bit about the idea of a space warp, and then we'll talk about a form of electric propulsion. You might have seen in the news, we're working on at JSC called Q thrusters, and so we'll talk to you guys a little bit about that and some of the data we presented, the joint propulsion.
The electric propulsion, the Q thruster, it just failed when they tested it. The satellite failed when they were going to test their Q thruster. Interesting. So if you Google this, I remember I watched a video of Sabine that said that, yeah, it failed to deploy or something. This was obviously misinformation. Like the thing didn't fail to deploy. I'm sure it was actually highly successful. This is how easy it is for them to hide this stuff. So when you guys find anything in the public literature about this science, this is where you're going to find out how they're hiding it. Like super easy.
Conference in Ohio. So when we talk about interstellar spaceflight, a lot of people really have no grasp on how far these distances are compared to what we can do today. So I think in terms of state-of-the-art, the Voyager 1 spacecraft is a really good illustration of the best that we've done so far in terms of an interstellar mission. So the Voyager 1 spacecraft was launched in the late 70s. It gave us all those really nice pictures of the outer planets in the solar system that kind of inspired us. It's been on its way for about 30 years. It's moving at about 3.6 AU per year, and AU is the distance from the Earth to the Sun. It's currently at about 120 astronomical units out into the solar system. So we could ask the question, how long would it take Voyager 1 to make it to our nearest star if it happened to be going in the right direction? It turns out it's not. Alpha Centauri is almost due south from the planet. But if it happened to be pointed in the right direction, how long would it take for it to get to Alpha Centauri? It turns out it would take a ridiculously long period of time, 75,000 years.
75,000 years using conventional propulsion to get to Alpha Centauri, the closest star system. 75,000 years? Jesus. That's like 4 light years away. Like, this is where people are like, oh, it's impossible to get to another star system. Well, yeah, if you're an idiot and you think we're going to use rockets to get there, we're going to not use rockets, guys. We're going to go faster than light. Guys got to get on board with how this shit works. And for any debunkers out there that want to change over to the winning team, just feel free anytime you want.
And so I don't know about you guys, that's a really long time to sit on console. But anyway, it really does highlight the fact that interstellar distances are very, very difficult compared to anything that we've done or ever thought about doing. To kind of continue to highlight the challenges associated with interstellar spaceflight, I want to talk about a project that was convened by the British Interplanetary Society back in the 70s. To look at going to Barnard Star, that's about 6 light years away. And they wanted to get there in 50 years. The spacecraft that they developed as part of that study using, I think this was pulsed fusion propulsion. The spacecraft they developed and published in their paper was pretty big, around 54,000 metric tons. And you kind of see a photo there that compares the Daedalus to the Saturn V rocket to scale. And I've also interposed a picture of the International Space Station as a comparison. And so I sat on console for almost all the missions that built the International Space Station, and it took all the resources of all the major spacefaring nations over 10 years to assemble the space station, and that's only 450 tons. So that's over 100 times more mass than an International Space Station. So interstellar flight is extremely difficult and can be a very time-consuming pursuit. So you could ask the question, what if you wanted to get somewhere very quickly? What if you wanted to try and cover that distance from Alpha Centauri in some time period that's not measured in decades, centuries, or millennia? What if you wanted to make it in less than 4?
Look at this cow. I love this for some reason. Too funny.
4 years. It turns out that the same framework that establishes the speed limit, the cosmic speed limit, you cannot exceed the speed of light. There are 2 loopholes within the mathematics of general relativity that potentially.
So right away already, guys, he's showing us here the geometry, Einstein's geometry of a wormhole, right? This is ER right here, Einstein-Rosen. There's the negative energy zone right there. And what did we just learn from Thomas Bearden? Negative energy is just energy from the vacuum that hasn't been brought into our system yet, that we haven't absorbed into our system yet. So really, negative energy is not this esoteric concept that's out there. It's actually a lot simpler than people are trying to understand it to be. So I would argue that the negative energy zone is the ether. That's the medium. That's the medium. That's what that is. So really, the way you solve the wormhole problem is this gap in the middle is the ether. And once you have an ether of unlimited negative energy, now you have a capability where you can produce a wormhole through it, through the medium, between 2 points in space and time. And when you look at the geometry like this, you realize that, imagine that this ether area right here that is infinitesimally small. If it's not, this is like a visual representation that we see here, where you see this distance here. But imagine there's no real distance here, that all these points are actually connected. This is the idea that the ether connects all points in space-time. If space-time is this flat grid that's in green, all these points are actually connected by the ether. Imagine this ether size here of negative energy is it's flat. It's all folded on top of one another. This is where every point in space and time is secretly connected, and we don't perceive it. This also explains how we can violate the speed of light.
Allow you to go somewhere very quickly without locally leaving.
Yeah, mass comes from the ether too, exactly, 100%. A mass is just energy that's slowed down, right? I think that you could argue that E equals mc squared. E equals mc squared implies that energy is just mass times the speed of light. Speed mass up turns into energy.
Your local light cone. One is the idea of a wormhole.
And now you also realize how we were able to drop an atomic bomb. E equals mc squared is the answer to the atomic bomb. You take a bomb, you turn this mass into energy, it releases a huge amount of energy.
The other is the idea of a space warp, and I'll talk a little bit about that.
So a wormhole and a space warp, two different concepts, both very similar though. I would argue that the space warp is pulling the space around you, and the wormhole, you're puncturing right through the space. So if that's true, then I've been a little bit incorrect, because that means what we see in the MH370 videos is literally a wormhole, and the space warp is what the orbs are doing. They're warping space around the object. Now you begin to see why Salvatore Pais wanted to talk to me. Salvatore Pais knows the truth. He knows the truth. And now you see why people attack him and why he gets upset, because Salvatore Pais is a guy who's, I don't want to say emotional is the right word. Let's say has a lot of empathy, has a lot of emotional intelligence. And so he gets upset when he knows the truth and he gets attacked. The thing that I have is I don't give a shit. People want to attack me and they want to make up bullshit about me. I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me at all. They want to stay in the dark. They want to live in the dark ages. Sure, go for it.
So the idea of
The truth is, the less people that know this information, the more I'll be able to benefit. The reason why I invested in semiconductors is because I knew that semiconductors led to magical technology. That was it. That's why I put my money in semiconductors.
space warp works on the principle that you can expand and contract space at any speed. It's not restricted to c. We know that inflation occurs in nature. When we look at light that comes to us from stars that are in galaxies very far away from us, that light has been redshifted since the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. So we know that inflation is a real phenomena, and it's part of.
Interesting. So the redshift from light, because we know redshift happens, we know there must be some inflationary mechanism. But even if we reimagine that as tired light losing energy through the ether, that also still proves that negative energy is possible. So no matter how you look at it, negative energy must be possible. Now, where conventional science is wrong, and I'm going to just say this as a statement of fact, conventional science is wrong. This is why they can't understand dark energy. Dark energy is the idea of the space expanding faster than the speed of light. Now, this is also why we would argue that we're seeing redshift. This is like a Doppler effect. The light is not able to keep up with the expanding space, therefore it's becoming redshifted. So we know that this dark energy must exist. But now we're wrong, though, in that it's not that space is expanding, it's that we have a medium of unlimited negative energy, of unlimited dark energy. That is what's causing the light to lose its energy as it flows through the medium. That's what's causing the redshift, which to me casts doubt on whether or not the universe is even expanding. And if the universe is not expanding, then the universe can be much older than we think that it is. And we know that's true already because we thought it was 13.7 billion years old. And then James Webb Space Telescope went up and it saw galaxies that were 13 point something billion years away, or light years away. And they're much more complex than they should be if they were that young. That proves that the universe is much older than we think it is. Welcome to science, everybody. You're on the cutting edge.
Of general relativity.
For the record, I should probably have more followers and more viewers than most of these science influencers because we're explaining the real science to you here. But so if you're here, you're one of the select few. Do with this information what you will in terms of knowing the truth. But you know the truth. So enjoy it, take advantage of it, you know, use it to profit. That should be the benefit, right? And honestly, you can understand why people don't want to give this information away, because the less people that know the truth, the more you're able to profit from it. If everybody knows the truth, then you're not going to be able to profit. There's going to be a lot more competition. So there you go.
And so nature can do it. Can we do it in some purposeful way? And so it was this idea that motivated Miguel Alcubierre to publish a paper in the 90s that kind of captured this.
Literally just drops Miguel Alcubierre from Mexico. Alcubierre drive. That's how simple it was all along, guys. Alcubierre drive was correct. That was the answer to how to achieve warp drive. It's how it works.
This idea in mathematics, and you see the concept here on the screen. And so when you look at the math and you try and envision what it might require, you see a little surface plot there that represents the expansion and contraction of space. Space is contracting here in the front of the spacecraft.
I'm not sure that it has to contract in front and expand behind. That's the only thing I'm not sure about. And the reason why I'm not sure about it is because we're literally looking at the warp drive in the MH370 videos. The orbs are pulling it off. And that makes me question whether or not it really is as simple as expanding and contracting in front or behind. I mean, that's theoretically it, but maybe we're missing something where it can travel backwards. You know, what's the difference between forward and backwards anyway? There's really no difference, right? It's just your perspective. Whether or not you're traveling forward or you're traveling backwards is just a matter of perspective. So imagine that the orbs are traveling backwards. It's still the same concept. Doesn't matter, right?
And space is expanding here in the back. When you look at the energy density term, you end up with a space.
I mean, I think the idea though is that like it has to be contracting in the front to be pulling forward, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Spacecraft that has this donut type of apparatus that surrounds this little football shape spacecraft. And so the football shape might be where you'd have your sensitive instrument.
I want to point something else out here. Before, would the ether not be better described as a fifth dimension? I think that you can absolutely call it the fifth dimension. That's what I do call it, fifth dimension. The ether, the fifth dimension, 100%. They literally added a dimension back in the early 1900s. Even Einstein was on board with it. I think in 1920. So absolutely, this is the crazy part, is that over 100 years ago, people had already figured this out, that there was an extra dimension, and we just went away from it. Really makes you wonder why. Really makes you wonder why. This starts to get pretty dark in terms of the suppression of science. Now, when you look at this ring, realize that the ring is not connected to the middle. The ring is not connected to the middle here. That's very important, because the ring, if you had the ring connected, it's going to break off. Now, this is why I think that we see orbs as opposed to like a ring like Star Trek. And if you were to produce a ring, my guess is the ring would not be connected to the thing that you have in the middle. Because I think you need, I don't know, I can't really fully explain it, but I just have a feeling that connecting it was going to cause a problem. And I think he talks about it here.
Or any payload that you're very worried about. Or if you wanted to be bold, maybe some type of a human crew. Now, the metric had a lot of good appealing characteristics when you think about the idea. At that little center area, that blue disk you see on the screen, it has a couple of good characteristics for the concept of a mission like this. It has the divergence of phi is 0, so it has flat space-time inside of the bubble. The coordinate time is equal to proper time inside of that flat region. So the mission control clocks would be synchronized with the clocks on board of the spacecraft. Then the proper acceleration alpha in the bubble is formally 0. So when you turned on the space warp system, the whole crew would not feel an infinite acceleration and go smacking against the bulkhead and killing everybody on board, and making for a very sad episode of Star Trek.
So he explains the inertial mass reduction as well, because when you make the bubble, now you're not going to have any, you're not going to feel the momentum when you have the bubble around you. So again, this is both important for warp drive and wormholes. So people wonder about conservation of momentum. Conservation of momentum is maintained potentially here. So that means you're not going to accelerate or decelerate potentially, but you probably can pull it off. Yeah, like the video. I also just realized something as well right now that I've said this, but now I'm 100% sure is that could you actually manufacture a black hole from this? Yeah, I'm going to go on the record saying I think that this technology would allow you to manufacture a real black hole. That's probably why it's being suppressed. That's how you're going to destroy the planet. If somebody has access to this technology, they're going to be able to make a black hole that would destroy the entire planet. That's probably why many countries are afraid to bring it up and afraid to let people know about it. If I had to guess. I hope that people are watching these videos like 20 years down the road and they're like, holy shit, this Ashton guy was talking about it. He was giving the goods. Because the truth is, I'm giving you guys the goods right now. And people say, well, how? Well, you have unlimited negative energy. And what we're talking about here is creating negative energy densities to a situation where something's going to get sucked into it. Now, imagine that what that means. You can create a situation where a plane's going to get sucked into something. Amplify that up. Keep amplifying it up. What do you get when you keep amplifying this concept that you're creating a contractive space in front of the object? You're creating a black hole. You amp it up to a point where now it's so powerful it sucks in light, and you've literally created a black hole. It's just a matter of scaling it up. That's it. Amplifying the energies higher. And we have access to unlimited energy from the ether. So we have all of the ingredients. That's like saying, how do you make a cake when you have flour, eggs, and milk? Well, you mix them together and then you make your cake. We have all the ingredients. We can absolutely make a black hole from this.
Now, it does have one unappealing characteristic. After Miguel published his paper and people went to go try and figure out how much stuff would it take to make this concept work, because it requires exotic matter or negative vacuum energy. And so they did some calculations to figure out what would you need to make some type of a system that we would think about actually work. And so the best estimates that were done prior to 2011 were done by some colleagues of mine, Dr. Richard Abusi, Dr. Jerry Cleaver. They reduced the amount of stuff that's required to something that's about the size of Jupiter. And so that's just quite impractical. And so the concept was really considered, maybe nature can do it on a grand scale, but it's unlikely that we could ever do something like this in a purposeful sense.
So first of all, I'm also now convinced that we can create a Big Bang from this as well. So it's just the opposite of a black hole is a Big Bang. This is why Salvatore Pais, when I asked him about white holes, he perked up a little bit, because it's two different polarized versions of the same event. One's an explosive event and one is an endothermic event, like a black hole. Endothermic event is the contraction of space inward. Black hole, a Big Bang is an expansion of space outward. And we can manipulate both of them if we have gravity and space-time manipulation. So not only can we produce a Big Bang, we can also produce a black hole. So now this is how you can destroy a planet. You can either create a black hole that would suck the planet in, or you can create an explosion that would destroy the asteroid or planetoid. Wow, guys, we've learned a lot today. We learned how to make doomsday weapons today, chat. That's pretty cool. I think we legally learned how to make doomsday weapons just now. Like other videos on YouTube, if you learned how to make doomsday weapons or like explosives and stuff like that, they would ban you. But when you do it, when you're talking about science that the YouTubers don't even know about, that the YouTube moderators don't even know about, then apparently it's legal. Pretty cool, huh? That's pretty sweet. Now, the thing is, too, is that CERN is not going to create a black hole because it's not creating energy densities that are strong enough. It might be able to create what you would consider to be a micro black hole, but those micro black holes are essentially the equivalent of bending space in front of you, contracting in front of you, which is, as we can see from the warp drive and the MH370 videos from the orbs, it's not going to be enough to create a full black hole. It's just creating a phase transition. You need to scale it up much higher in order to create a real black hole. So that's why we don't have to be worried about CERN. CERN is like taking two little pea shooters. It's like, okay, I can shoot you with my little spitball. Like if I shoot a spitball through a straw at you, it's not going to kill you. But if I shoot a bullet at you, it's going to blow your brains out. Sorry for the visual, but that's the difference. CERN is using a little pea shooter shooting a spit wad at you. And to create a black hole using the technology we see in MH370 videos, that's like taking a high caliber rifle. So way big differences, okay?
And so I got asked to come to the 100-Year Starship Symposium and give a little bit of a talk on the concept of a space warp. As a result of Pete Warden and some...
Yeah, the ATF hasn't regulated black holes yet, except for Don Lemon's, oh, boom, 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 shh.
Others kind of being visionary and asking for folks to kind of think about this. Rather than just kind of relay everything that had been done before by myself and others, I decided to do a sensitivity analysis. I wanted to look at what happens to the mathematics when I change some of the input parameters.
Okay, so if you just got with us, we're looking at how to make a warp bubble. And the big problem was it would take the amount of mass equal to Jupiter, which we know is bullshit because we're literally watching it in 2 videos. So how do we fix that? This is where Harold's work, Sonny's work comes into play. Sonny went, well, let's mess around with the parameters. And what you're going to find out here is that he found parameters that allow for the energy levels to come down exponentially. And once those, well, maybe exponentially is not the right word. Let's say significantly. And once you get those energy densities down enough, now you can amplify energy, like Salvatore Pais would say, to create the energy densities that are practical for a real wormhole or real warp drive.
And so I looked at and focused on, in this case, the shell thickness parameter. And so you see a couple of stills there from some videos we'll look at in just a second. So this is for a 10-meter diameter spacecraft with an effective velocity of 10 c. And the only thing I'm changing is the shell thickness parameter. So instead of having that football with the ring that goes around it, instead of that ring being a thin aspect ratio, say like a wedding band, if I change it where it looks more like a lifesaver or an inner tube, I can greatly change the magnitude of the York time. And to kind of put that in engineering parlance, kind of like a strain rate, so to speak, on SpaceTime. And when you look at the energy density associated with that, the energy density changes significantly. So just show you some of the animations to help you see. So as the thickness of the bubble gets thicker because the ring is getting thicker, the magnitude of the York time decreases significantly. And similarly for the energy density, for that same set of cases, the energy density collapses many orders of magnitude. So what's potentially going on with this finding is that by changing the strain rate that we're having to put on SpaceTime, we're changing how much energy is required to achieve that strain rate. So if I were to, this podium is made out of wood, and so it's about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch thick. If I were to try and take my thumb and my forefinger and compress the wood, again using an engineering example, compress the wood by a 1/4 inch, although I'm from Texas, I can't do that. Maybe Pete can, but it's beyond my capacity. But if I reduce the strain that I have to put on the wood to maybe just a nanometer or two, then maybe I can do that. So that's kind of what you're seeing there is by changing the strain rate for the same case, we are reducing the energy that's required. Now, going back just to point something out here, you're sacrificing some real estate in the center of the bubble. So you see the little flat island where those ideal conditions are is changing its overall size. So it is a little bit of a trade. How much volume do you need to house whatever you're trying to do in some fictional spacecraft? Now, SpaceTime.
My only question here is, so he's basically explaining how you can reduce the energy requirements. This was in 2014, but we know from the MH370 videos, because we know those videos are real, that they already had this technology in 2014. So this is a situation where, so how does this play out? How does this work? So the answer is they already had this technology, and then Sonny was either allowed to talk about it, or he had no idea that we already had it, and he had figured it out independently. I can't figure out what it is. Was it, so does Sonny know and he's been given permission to talk about it? Or does Sonny not know and NASA's just completely in the dark and he had rediscovered what the black projects had already discovered years prior? That's the part I want to know. That's the part I want to understand. Because what he's saying here is like, this is like a caveman saying, here's how to make fire. Where there's a dude with electric power in the house next door laughing at him going, yeah, I knew how to make fire 20 years ago, dude. Pretty interesting. I kind of want to reach out to Sonny and talk to him. If anyone can find me Sonny White, give me his email or something. I want to get in touch with this guy. I want to know if he knows. And here's the thing: one of my superpowers, I can tell if somebody's lying instantly. You put me in the room with this dude, I'll be able to tell if he knew about this within like 15 minutes. If he knows about the MH370 videos and he knew that this technology was already possible before he did this presentation, I'll be able to figure it out. This is why, like, if you put me in the room with that prime minister or that Malaysian minister of defense, I would get a full confession out of this dude within 15 minutes. Full confession. I would have him singing like a canary. I'd be like, okay, when you were talking to Obama, what exactly were you guys talking about? He'd be like, and I'd be like, what was the information that the United States government gave you that was contingent upon you guys never talking? And he'd be like, and I'd be like, did the United States take the airplane? 100%, guys.
Is pretty stiff. This wood is a fairly stiff material. If I could change the material properties and make the wood seem more like foam, then for the same strain rate, I can further reduce the amount of energy that's necessary to induce the amount of strain on that piece of material. So the question that I looked at next is there something that we can do to try and look at this term that's in the Einstein tensor and the energy density tensor. And so what I did next was
we need to look at the energy density tensor next. It's all starting to come together, guys. The plasma physics side of it too. For some reason, I'm targeted on this idea of reducing C through the plasmoids. Somehow the plasma ball is reducing the energy requirement by reducing the speed of light or some value in the equations to reduce the energy requirement. I don't know how. I know that it's true. I got my intuition is just, it's been spot on this whole time. I'm going to trust it. I'm also kind of freaked out about all the debunks related to the MH370 videos in terms of the lengths they're willing to go to. We've learned a lot about how the disinformation apparatus runs. Like, they can literally produce a cloud picture and plant it on the internet. And they probably planted it years ago in anticipation of this ever happening. And then they used people as like, either the people that found it were nefarious or they were useful idiots. And I still don't know which one it is, but the fact that they're willing to go to those lengths, that's pretty incredible. That's pretty credible. This is how they've been like desperate to hide this stuff. It does make me wonder if they are going to try to take me out. It does make me wonder that. I think I do need to be careful about what I say. Pretty wild.
Look at...
Yeah, the videos were definitely a show of force. I'm like almost 100% sure that Joseph P. Farrell had it figured out. It was to steal back the semiconductor engineers. Those people were definitely defecting with the information, and we were trying to prevent it. You guys look around. China's trying to steal semiconductor tech left and right, left and right, because they know it leads to this. China knows it leads to this kind of technology, and whoever has the best semiconductor tech is going to have the best technology. And we were just showing them what we can do. That's what we did in the MH370. That's what we did with that plane. Not only did we show them what we could do, we showed them how we could lie to the world and get the world to believe that a plane crashed without leaving a debris field. People are so brainwashed that they will completely ignore all common sense and logic and reason if the authority tells them to. Just think about that. The authority tells them to ignore that a plane crashed without leaving a debris field. The whole world will just run with it. If their favorite fake YouTuber idiots who have millions of followers on YouTube tell them that, well, the voice inflection in this guy was kind of weird because I'm a pilot trainer, then you look at the whole world to go, yeah, it's obviously a pilot suicide scenario. Even though, like, there's no crashed plane anywhere, dude flies to the nearest airport. Like, anyone just has to use, like, the only thing that was required to solve MH370 is basic common sense. Like, that was the only thing that was required. Just literally just the ability to think for yourself. That's the only requirement to solve the mystery.
Expanding the Alcubierre metric into a higher dimensional manifold. And so I looked at the Chung-Freeze metric and did some work with some of the null-like geodesics between the two models, and found that if you were to go through and vary the intensity in the ring, you can change the stiffness properties of space and potentially further reduce the amount of stuff that's necessary.
So he's talking about the ring. Imagine the ring is 3 orbs and they're making a field. You don't need a full ring. You can create a toroidal effect with just 3 orbs. This is why they have 3 orbs, guys. You're creating these just say you're impacting the energy density of the space. I think that's what he just said. So now he's like literally explaining how the orbs work right here, chat. I'm going to go back just a few seconds.
You can change the stiffness properties of space and potentially further reduce the amount of stuff.
Change the stiffness properties of space. So this is where we need to look at the stress energy tensor of space and some of those other science terms that we haven't understood yet. That's how we're manipulating space-time. We're like literally bending the medium. Pretty cool, huh?
That's necessary to maybe make this concept work. So I culminated the effort with a table that kind of looked at this 10-meter diameter spacecraft, varying the shell thickness parameter and the time varying potential d phi dt.
So we actually this exact slide we're looking at came from, or this picture we're looking at came from the slides about Harold Sonny White, and this is just the values that are required based on how much you're able to get it down and how big the object is you're trying to teleport. So once again, now we know why the orbs are circling around the plane, because they're trying to figure out how much mass it has in order to figure out how much energy they need to produce in order to warp the aircraft. Like they're literally looking at to figure out on this line here how far up the line it goes. They didn't know the exact mass and center of mass of this plane. Also, yes, Bearden. Guys, you guys need to be paying attention to semiconductors. Everything that happens to semiconductors, you should be watching like with a fine tooth, like watching it like a hawk. Bearden literally just added more trade tariffs on semiconductors because we're literally in a war over this technology with China and semiconductors. We're trying to bring it back to the U.S. We should. This was part of the reason why I made my post about Make America Great Again. I deleted the part. I was going to put in the part about when I said that stuff about technology and new industries, semiconductors are what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about teaching kids how to critically think, I'm talking about teaching kids correct electrical engineering. That's what we need to do to make America the #1 country in the world.
And I wanted to duplicate the work done by Richard Debussy and Jerry Cleaver, so I set the parameters such that I could require a Jupiter amount of exotic matter up here. So you can see on the bottom there's some little cartoons that show the relative aspect ratio of the ring relative to the little log scale here. And as you get further to the left, the ring is getting infinitely thin. And so we can, for this 10-meter diameter spacecraft with an effective velocity of 10c, I can yield the solution that requires a Jupiter amount of exotic matter. I could formally drive it to infinity, but by using these optimization techniques, we can reduce it non-trivially.
So when they say exotic matter, all he's saying is they need to figure out how much energy to extract from the ether. Remember, put together what we just heard from Thomas Bearden. What is negative entropy? Negative entropy is energy we're getting outside from the outside environment that we're pulling in from the ether itself. That's how it functionally operates. The same idea is we're getting wind to produce our wind plant and sun energy, light to produce our solar power. We're sucking energy from the ether. Exotic matter, exotic energy. That is literally just energy from a location that we don't understand. The medium of space-time, of the ether itself. That's literally where the energy is coming from to produce the effects that we see in the MH370 video. That's why it's an endothermic event, a cold explosion.
In this case, something about the size of the Voyager 1 spacecraft in terms of the effective mass of what you need to make the trick work. So what this does is it moves the idea from the category of completely impossible to maybe plausible. It doesn't say anything about feasible. So unfortunately, that point usually gets missed a lot, but at least opens up the door that maybe it's interesting to go try and perform some small experiments to try and see if we can create some type of changes in optical properties in a very small scale in the laboratory. And so that's some of the stuff we're kind of rolling the rock down the road with.
Somebody asked, what company was it that I said I invested in? I literally just put my money, I wish I had put my money in NVIDIA, because NVIDIA almost tripled since last November. I put my money in NXP, which was the one that bought Freescale. So for me, the reason why I did that was I was like, oh shit, Freescale was making crazy technology. So whoever bought them, they must be good. And then I went and checked the list of investors, and it's Vanguard, BlackRock, I think, And I'm like, okay, yeah, the super evil elites have their money there. That's where I want to put my money. And it's served me pretty well. I think the returns, you can just look for yourself, has been pretty solid. There's no other industry that I personally would want my money in other than semiconductors. I think that this is not investment advice in any way, shape, or form, but I just personally believe that semiconductors are just going to keep going through the roof. I mean, what happens when people find out that semiconductors can allow you to bend space-time and allow you to create wormholes and all kinds of other crazy shit like this? Like, the stock prices are going to fly, in my opinion. I mean, I think they have nowhere else to go but up. But I don't know how much it's going to continue to go up or what have you. We'll see.
At our lab at JSC. And so we've got two apparatuses that we use. We have a Twyman Green interferometer.
Listen to this
And
part,
so this
chat.
is where we have a test article that we put on one of the reference legs of the interferometer, and we can energize the test article to try and create a blue, in this case with our low fidelity test articles, create a blue shifted frame relative to the lab and change the perceived path length for the photons that move through this region on the interferometer. And so there'll be a slight change in the interference pattern on the interferometer that we can try and detect.
So they're using light beams because they're going to try to create a warp bubble that's going to bend space-time. And that's why they're going to check to see if the light reaches the endpoint at a different time. I now understand interferometry. This is why they're doing interferometry, because they're trying to measure whether or not space is being bent, even on very, very tiny scales. So if you see a blue shift or a red shift, then you're going to see a bubble or an inversion or what have you, right? The same concept as when we see the red shift from light in outer space from far distant objects. It's because of the space-time medium. So we're manipulating the space-time medium, and then we're looking for red or blue shifts.
Using some of the software analysis techniques, and maybe see if we can't see a manifestation of this in a very small sense. This shows a picture of one of the test setups on.
I don't know. I thought I saw somewhere it literally says that this is actually the Michelson-Morley experiment. The interferometry experiment he just showed is the Michelson-Morley interferometry experiment, the same one that was used to disprove the ether. Like, isn't it a little weird that the exact same one that they're using to show a warp bubble is the same exact configuration, basically the same configuration that we used for the Michelson-Morley in 1885? Like, if you guys look around, what you're going to find is all of these experiments, they all use laser light interferometry, like basically the equivalent of the Michelson-Morley. And sometimes some of them are a little bit more advanced than others, but that's not a coincidence. Like, they're all trying to measure space-time.
The Twyman Green, see the test article there on one of the beam paths. You've got the laser on the left. It's a very standard setup for a Twyman Green. We've got the detector on the right that goes through the computer that collects the data for the data runs. And then the other test setup that we have is a slightly different permutation on an interferometer. We have a Fabry-Perot interferometer. And so the advantage of a Fabry-Perot interferometer over a Twyman Green is that you can pass a light beam through a particular region of interest.
Here it is right here. There it is. I found it on the left here. Example, Michelson-Morley interferometer image for sodium source. Right there. Boom. And here's the other one, the Fabry-Perot.
Many, many times. And so that increases the measured magnitude of the effect by a couple of orders of magnitude. So it's a way to take a test implementation and get a little bit higher level of fidelity. And so you can see on the bottom two pictures there's an example of a sodium source being run through a Michelson-Morley type of interferometer. You can see the interference pattern. But in the Fabry-Perot, because of these multiple constructive and destructive interference passes, you start to see the atomic structure of the sodium source, and so you see the doublet in the Fabry-Perot. And so you see a test setup there with the laser and the imager, and then the Fabry-Perot that's in the region where we're trying to induce the blue shifted frame with the low fidelity test article. Now, in the process of doing the test, we do turn the test article on and off with a given frequency, and we go through and you see an image on the top right that shows an interference pattern from the imager, and we'll go through and run a test cycle where we run it over an extended period of time, and then we will do an FFT for each and every pixel, and then we will look for energy in the spectrum based on how we were energizing and de-energizing the test article. And you see on the bottom right, that is an FFT of the entire imager at the frequency of interest. If there were no phenomena present, then in principle that should just simply be a flat blue surface. We shouldn't see anything there. However, there are still, when you're working with stuff of this magnitude, there are still false positives, so we would by no means consider this definitive. This is just interesting, and we're continuing to try and eliminate.
So they ended up as well using the elevated platform, so that reduces like the tiny vibrations of the Earth as well, which is pretty interesting to see. And yeah, this crossing the streams, absolutely. I mean, there's this huge element of crossing the streams, which is so important in this. This is where I want to take 2 petawatt lasers and cross the streams on them and see what happens. You know, maybe we'll do what Dave Rossi said and like create some kind of crazy gravity manipulation type situation. Pretty damn sweet, guys.
To other sources of false positives. Now we have, there's a lab at JSC that was built for the Apollo program, working with inertial measurement units. We kind of were able to get a little small footprint in that lab to be able to do some work and take advantage of the seismic isolation that it has. You can see the big pneumatic piers that floats the entire floor. It's a pretty sizable lab, probably about 30 feet by 40 feet, something like that. And so we can float the whole lab when we're doing testing. And although the lab without being floated is
so here's the I'm going to skip ahead
quiet,
of this floating lab thing, because this is where he's just talking about like reducing the weird interference and stuff like that. Let's skip ahead of that.
We could take a helium neon laser and we could run it through an optical chopper that would create light pulses that we could then send through this racetrack and go through and time how long it takes for a photon to run through the test apparatus with a test device not energized, and then time how long it takes for a photon to run through the test apparatus with the device off or on, back and forth, and compare the two. And that can be a different way of detecting the phenomena that if you saw some data that looked like what you wanted on this apparatus, if you didn't.
They're basically just trying to detect to see if space is being bent, because it's going to change the time for the light to get to the end destination, okay? Let's skip ahead a little bit. Oh, this is the part I want to get to right here. So this is where he talks about having that thing connect the donut, your toroid, potentially gets snapped off. It's pretty interesting.
Kind of like an education outreach piece that I did with some folks from CBS. I worked with Mike Okuda and Mark Rademacher. The concept you see here is based on some artwork that Matt Jeffries did back in the 60s for the TV show. He's the guy that kind of came up with the familiar sombrero look that we all know from the TV show. And so he had another version that he generated that I think was one of his favorite. And so this is a modern rendering done by Mark Rademacher based on that artistic concept that he developed. Now, the thing that's cool to me is, just going through the math with you guys, you can see that this concept is, it's got some things that are almost what the mathematics requires. It's got these rings that go around the spacecraft, and it's got this centrally located spacecraft. But it does have a few things that are not correct based on the energy optimization findings and where the warp bubble would actually be. The rings on the spacecraft are too thin, so they're going to drive the energy requirements to be non-trivial. So you'd want the rings to be a little different. And then the central portion of the spacecraft is not located properly, and so when the bubble were to form, it would actually cut the bridge off the spacecraft, and the bridge would float away, and Scotty'd probably be fired.
So he's saying like the part here where the bridge is too far out. It needs to be further inward. This explains why the orbs are mapping the plane as well, is that they need it to be wide enough so that the zap needs to be big enough so that it's going to get the front edge of the plane. This, in my opinion, this also explains why the tail of the plane is sticking out. The tail of the plane is probably the part that is furthest away from the center of mass. If you were to map the plane, you're going to find that the tail is the farthest point away from the center of mass of the plane, the very farthest. That's why it's sticking out of the warp bubble. Wow, we are literally looking at a wormhole in the MH370 videos, guys. I actually understand the science to kind of a scary degree right now. Kind of a scary degree.
So I worked with the guys to kind of upgrade this concept with the mathematics, and so we did an education outreach for like a Ships of the Line calendar, where we had a little paragraph that reminded people we're still in low Earth orbit, we've got a lot of work to go do. If this is interesting to you, there's plenty of other work that we need to work on, so please follow your passion and work on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But the concept's got these much thicker rings, so it's considerably more athletic looking. Then the little spaceship is kind of more properly located within what would be called the Fenning region. So it's in that little flat space-time, so things would be a little bit better for the crew. Now as we move forward, what we want to do is we want to move to a higher fidelity test article. So you see a concept we're still working on right now in terms of the some of the analysis. We want to explore the dφ/dt dependency. Remember I said that was one of the two energy optimization techniques. And so we want to go through and explore the dφ/dt dependency. Some of the stuff that we're doing with the Q thruster technology has some potential pertinence to this. And so we're using the physics models for that to kind of guide the construction and development of a test article to go through and see if we can explore a much larger magnitude of dφ/dt.
So this guy is a genius, definitely, no doubt. My only question is, how much more does he know? That's the only question I have. John says, do any of these ships have rivets? I don't know what you mean, like little indents? I'm not sure. I don't understand the context. Yeah, Ashton says, Ashton, please don't. MA says, please don't stop streaming this stuff. Stuff's epic. This definitely is epic, guys. People are definitely going to look back at this in the future. People that are smart will look back at these streams because you'll realize like this was a journey of discovery, and other people can do it. And if you follow this path, I truly believe good things will happen to you.
And you kind of see a little cartoon of some of the modes we're looking at and some of the specific details we're looking at to put on the inside of the test apparatus. So that takes me through to the next one. That's kind of the interstellar portion of the talk. I want to switch gears now and talk a little bit about the technology that we're working on. It's a little bit higher in TRL potentially.
Yeah, I agree. The more I think about the mass should be pretty well known, but they might not have access to the perfect mass at takeoff, especially because the plane is burning fuel as well, and it's going to have like a lot of fuel in there. So it could still be the mass, but my guess is that's not it. I also think that I'm pretty much going to rule out the lithium-ion batteries being a catalyst at this point. Yes, they're filled with energy, but they're a completely inconsequential amount of energy in the batteries.
Concept called Q thrusters, and I want to talk about some of the data that I presented at the Joint Propulsion Conference several weeks ago. So a Q thruster is a form of electric propulsion analogous to a Hall thruster. So it's low thrust. It uses electric and magnetic fields to work with charged particles. In this case, we're working on the quantum vacuum, the virtual electrons and positrons, pushing them in one direction, and the Q thruster recoils in the other direction to conserve momentum. So a classical analogy to think about with this concept is to imagine a submarine that has a propeller on the back. A submarine does not go to all the trouble to pull up to a dock and fill up a tank full of water and then expel that water through a nozzle in the back of the submarine. It capitalizes on the fact that it's embedded in its propellant. So the propellant is all around it in the form of the seawater. So it uses the propeller on the back of the submarine to generate a hydrodynamic pressure gradient in the water. And so the water moves in one direction and the submarine moves in the other.
So he just explained how the Q thruster and EM drive works, guys. So Q thruster, EM drive, these things are real as well. They all use the same concepts, which is the concept of the ether. If space is empty, this doesn't work. If space is full of the ether, then this works. You're creating what do you say, negative pressure gradient between the seawater. In this case, you're doing it between the quantum fluctuations in the vacuum, the ether, basically. This is why Q thruster works. This is why all this stuff works. Like literally, it's just you only need one concept, and you can explain all the physics that we don't understand. Like this literally just closes the gap. It unifies our understanding. Honestly, I can't even think of anything that we don't understand when we add the ether. Like all the stuff that we've been wondering, dark matter, dark energy, all this bullshit, it's all explained when you add the ether. Just closes all the gaps that we've been conventionally having that are out there. Let's see what else people had. Exotic vehicles don't have rivets. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like in terms of they're put together. I think when you're talking about the exotic vehicles, like a UFO, for example, these things are being produced to have the same effects that the orbs have without any orbs being needed. So the orbs that we see in the MH370 videos are specifically for teleporting objects that are terrestrial objects. This is another reason why those orbs are us. For something that is going to be 1,000 years more advanced, they're going to be able to create these electromagnetic effects from the materials engineering of the craft itself. So they're going to make the bismuth, magnesium, zinc layer, and they're going to be able to create the field around the object without the need for orbs at all. That's the difference. And where they're going to get their energy from? They're going to get their energy from the energy vacuum 0 point, free energy devices that are inside the craft itself. So this is, and it might even get more complicated than that. But this is where I say, like, when we look at the orbs and MH370 videos, this is our technology. This is our version of the technology. This is the infancy of that technology. It seems really advanced because you're like, well, they're warping an aircraft. But it's going to get like much, much, much more advanced than that, guys. I'm telling you.
So analogously, a Q thruster is pushing off the quantum vacuum, pushing the quantum particles in one direction, and in order to conserve momentum, the Q thruster moves in the other direction. I like this quote from Arthur C. Clarke. This was done in 1980, so back when I was in middle school. If vacuum fluctuations can be harnessed for propulsion by anyone besides science fiction writers, purely engineering problems of interstellar flight would be solved. But I'd also be keen to use it for Mars missions as well.
Yeah, the orbs can come from anywhere, by the way. The second orb appears to come from the water. These are trans-medium craft. They can come from space, water, air. Doesn't matter. Can come from anywhere, guys.
This shows our test apparatus that
the orbs aren't necessarily getting inside the wormhole. They're generating the wormhole themselves. So it's like if you have the edge of the wormhole, the orbs are coming with. The orbs are coming with, guys.
We use to measure and quantify the force for the test articles. This is a low thrust torsion pendulum. It has all the similar elements that you would find.
Also notice, actually, I think I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Okay, cool. Build a torsion thing. RF test, sure. So I think this is them testing the Q thruster. Well, because I'm going to have to drop in like 10 minutes, so I want to skip ahead here. RF testing. Radio frequency testing. I think this is all about their Q thruster. Now, the Q thruster went into space and it failed. Supposedly, that's the official narrative that it failed. That it just didn't go off. Like they didn't even test it. And that's where, if you read YouTubers, they're going to say, oh, it was debunked. The reality is they never even got to test it. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to some of the end here.
Independent of the Q thrusters, that's just an interesting metric that we found in the process of exploring that. I think I'm running really low on time, so let me just pop through to the plan forward. So moving forward, we want to implement a phase lock loop that prevents us, that precludes us from having to do manual tuning. We can basically have almost light switch like reliability. We want to be able to gather a larger amount of data over multiple operating conditions. We want to do some power scanning. We want to continue to evaluate some different RF modes and explore some different antenna configurations. And then the test system that we have now, the amplifier that we procured, has the ability to be tested at vacuum, and so that's our next step. And then instead of doing a test with an RF dummy load, we want to perform future null tests with the thruster actually rotated orthogonal to the thrust axis. So we want to leave the thruster on the torsion pendulum, test in one direction, the other direction, and then rotate it where it's orthogonal to the thrust vector. And then once we've pounded all that flat, we've been talking with Glenn Research Center about doing some independent verification and validation.
Real quick, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh yeah, it failed. Yep, just didn't deploy. Sorry, we weren't able to test it. Like, this is where you can see why Joseph P. Farrell and other people are able to figure out what the bullshit's going on, because they know like all the nonsense they do. And I think Tracy Scott pointed out, like, now you can see why they're trying to debunk the videos. They're trying to hide the videos. Like, you know, do you think the corrupt people want this stuff to come out? No. These people have been spending decades hiding this. They've been spending 100 years hiding this at this point. They don't know how not to hide it at this point. They're doing their best. Everything short of taking me out is what they're doing to hide these videos. And we are just slapping them down left and right. So, hi, feds. Nice to see you. Hope you guys are learning.
In their vacuum chamber, they have a low thrust torsion pendulum that we can utilize to go through and explore what it does in that facility. Then Johns Hopkins has also talked about doing some type of a Cavendish balance test with the IV&V ship set. So I think with that, I'm just about almost up to my time. So there you go. I'll hand it over to questions.
Oh, there we go. Let's give them a round of applause, guys. You know what? I'll even stand up. Great work, Sonny. I heard they discredited Sonny as well because he spoke a little bit too much truth here. He got a little bit too close to the truth. They had to discredit him a little bit. I might look into what the history of him was, because bravo, man. Bravo. Did he just explain EM drive, warp drive, how much energy you need to make a warp bubble even potentially there? I mean, he was on it, right? This guy is on it. This was 10 years ago, guys. This is 2014 that he did that presentation.
That video you wanted to show as well? Okay, questions, everybody?
I'll answer questions too. Was the MH370 from a U.S. drone? Yes, it appears to be from an MQ-1C Gray Eagle, although the exact model doesn't really matter. It's 100% a General Atomics United States government military drone. So, yeah.
Thank you for coming here.
Yes, sir.
I have a hypothetical for you.
Yes,
if
sir.
you had an unlimited budget and a mission to get yourself to Alpha Centauri and had to choose between an Alcubierre type warp drive and a antimatter drive that would be, of course, subluminal, which would you think would be the more practical choice?
So that question was stupid. First of all, whichever one gets you the faster is the answer, but I'm not even sure that what he said was a difference. Like a subluminal warp drive. So anything that's subluminal is obviously going to be for only short distances, like trying to get around the Earth. If you're trying to get to Alpha Centauri, you want a wormhole. You need to go instantaneous transmission. I need to get 4 light years away. You want a wormhole at that point. What do you think his answer is going to be? I'm not sure. Let's see.
That's a great question. I'm going to answer your question. I'm not going to pick a horse. I would probably do both from the standpoint. If I had the unlimited budget that you're talking about, I would like to have multiple paths to maybe increase the likelihood of success.
Okay, let me frame it. You only get to pick one.
I only get to.
These are questions where you get from like Question Boy in high school, where it's like, I'm going to answer this question. It's like, bro, you're going to fly through a fucking wormhole. That's the answer, bro. Subluminal, less than the speed of light. I don't want to spend 4 years getting to Alpha Centauri, man. That's the closest star. I want to get there like right now, instantly.
Pick one. I don't know that I'm prepared to answer that. If you have an unlimited budget and you want to come back and tell me, then I'll make a decision, right? So, yes, I guess. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Maybe I missed it. What exactly physical phenomenon are you measuring with your interferometers, and what results would you consider as positive or negative? So could you explain this a little bit?
You're asking what are we trying to measure?
What are you trying to measure in the interferometer? We're trying to measure if we're bending space-time, bro. It's not really that complicated. Even I was able to figure it out. What do you think you're measuring when you're measuring a blue shift or a red shift? Why do you think all the stars have red shifted when we look out in the sky? We're trying to measure the bends in space-time.
With interferometers.
In the interferometer.
Yeah.
We're trying to change the optical path length in a very small region of the interferometer by having the appropriate conditions with what the general relativity requires. And then it says in a local region, it'll change the perceived path length for the photon line integrals.
So the path length is just another term for bending space-time. There you go. You got the answer.
So then that'll manifest itself in the form of a
No science shaming, guys. True. We shouldn't shame people for not understanding science. Let's not shame him. Let's not shame the Russian guy or wherever he's from, Eastern Europe somewhere.
slight change of the interference pattern. I mean, not something you...
Guys, I'm just going to throw this out there. Elon Musk knows about this shit. 100%. Elon Musk knows about this. You don't think the richest man, one of the richest men in the world, you don't think he is shooting rockets in the sky? Shooting secret spy satellites for the United States government on his SpaceX rockets. You don't think he knows about this technology? You must be naive. You must be naive, chat. You think Ashton Forbes is going to start selling Overunity devices to people and Elon Musk doesn't know that we have anti-gravity and space-time manipulation technology? You think it's just a coincidence that Elon Musk won't comment on any of my posts, even though I've got 185 million impressions in the last 9 months, and I'm talking about science nonstop that he loves, and I've got to be one of the fastest growing Twitter accounts by volume on all of X for the last 9 months? You think he doesn't know about me? He got the community notes removed from my posts, guys. Elon Musk got the community notes removed from... I've never seen a community note get removed from a post before that had over 1 million views on it. I've never seen that before. And we got multiple removed from my posts. You know why they got removed? Because he knows that shit's real. And he told his people, don't let these people push disinformation on Ashton Forbes' posts. Like, that's the only explanation. I've never seen a community note get removed before.
You're going to see with the naked eye. It requires computers to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, he's got the microphone.
Since I got the mic on,
he's got
could I, regarding the Q thruster, could I get you to address this whole conservation of...
Yeah, he knows, but he also likes to live. Exactly. Elon Musk literally knows that the whole people, all this black world, whatever, they tried to crucify Elon Musk. They tried to, make the world think that he's an evil guy. Like, that was not organic. They came at him and they changed the whole public perception of Elon Musk, and he saw that. And he's been fighting back in the only way he can without being killed. He starts talking about this technology, and it's game over.
Momentum question?
Absolutely, yeah. So the Q thruster does conserve momentum if it works as we think it does based on the physics. If you're pushing off the quantum vacuum, you're establishing an anisotropic state in the quantum vacuum, and so it is putting a wake out of the back of the thruster. And at some point, if we continue to see a good day...
He literally just explained it. The Q thruster is putting a wake out of the back of the thruster. That's how the EM drive works. This is impulse drive. This is funny. It's literally just a medium. This all requires the ether as a medium. You're producing a wake. The only way you can produce a wake is you have a medium. Waves require a medium to propagate. Space-time is not empty. It's just that simple, guys. Imagine space-time like you imagine water. We're fish in a fishbowl, and we don't even realize that the water, we're inside a bunch of water. Like, we think that, there's air around us, but if you were to look at the molecules of air, the molecules are actually extremely far apart. So what's in between them? The ether. Space-time is not empty. We have a medium that we're propagating through all the time.
And we rule out all of
even in outer space.
False positives. And one of the things we would like to go through and explore is what is the momentum distribution and what's the divergence angle of the wake. And so we would do that by using another Q thruster that would kind of recouple with the wake in the quantum vacuum and try and measure the wake.
Guys, look up this Q thruster thing, man.
Oh, wait.
We're going to post about this Q thruster. We're just going to expose that shit, too. That was definitely sabotaged. Q thruster experiment. Where is it? It's got to be in the news, right? Controversial quantum space drive test in orbit updated November 2023. Contact lost with spacecraft carrying experimental quantum drive. February 14, 2024. This was just a couple months ago. Holy shit. This has literally just been suppressed a couple months ago. We're definitely posting about this tomorrow, chat. Tomorrow we expose the Q thruster bullshit and the fucking disinformation around the Q thrusters. So, hi feds. Tomorrow we get to expose Q thruster.
Causality on the other one too.
Causality.
Oh, on the warp drive. how do you avoid causality violation, or does it happen?
You never locally exceed the speed of light, so you can't do any. I like Dr. Hugh as much as the next guy, but you can't. There's no time travel possible with the space warp.
Wrong. 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 Time dilation is real, so there is time travel. The question is, can you go to the past? That's the only issue. But that answer there, I'm throwing bullshit. That's wrong. You can go to the future. We know that. The faster you go, the more time dilation you're going to experience. So if you are locally approaching the speed of light, you are going to experience a time dilation effect. And with respect to creating a bubble, now you don't have to deal with that problem at all. There might be instantaneous transmission that's possible if you can produce a Stargate. So it's going to start getting weird, everybody. It's going to start getting weird.
Yeah.
Thanks. The Alcubierre warp metric and other ones require exotic matter. How? And so I presume if you're trying to make some kind of Alcubierre thing on the optical bench with this interferometer, are you trying to make exotic matter in your test article, which you didn't say very much about?
Yeah,
or
so
what's going on with that test article, and why should it be an Alcubierre-like effect?
Yeah, so the low fidelity test article is trying to create a blue shifted frame relative to the lab. So we're just using a large potential energy with our low fidelity test articles. The higher fidelity test article that I showed you guys a picture of, that is based on the Q thruster physics, and so that's where we go through and we work on using the negative vacuum energy to try and satisfy all the explicit requirements of the field equations. So that test article is trying to.
So just negative vacuum energy is all we're trying to produce there, which is really just a way to describe the direction of travel of the thrust. And that's where we would get that from the ether itself, which is going to be unlimited negative energy. So people think about it as exotic. When you say the word exotic, you think impossible, but it's really a lot simpler. It's energy. It's just energy that's on the fabric of the ether itself. And yeah, so the Q thruster, it was just, they claimed that contact was lost. They didn't say it failed, and they just lost contact. Obviously, this was disinformation that was pushed out to the media because it certainly works. 100% it works. We know it works because there's an ether. And the reason why they can't let that experiment work is that if that experiment went public, then people would realize that there's an ether, and then the whole Pandora's box opens up. Everything opens up. The MH370 videos are the most important videos in the history of the world.
To establish more accurately the requirements as set up by the mathematics, working with negative vacuum energy, Casimir force.
Casimir force. Every time Casimir force. This idiot physicist, mainstream physicist that I was arguing with the other day, I was trying to claim that the Casimir force is Van der Waals effect, which are two completely different effects. They're similar. They have similar attractive forces, but one is two atoms that are next to each other. The other one's literally two plates at the macroscopic scale to get pulled together. Like, this goes to show like how dumb mainstream physicists are. Like, if you've been watching me, you're already significantly more intelligent than mainstream physicists. You're probably more intelligent on physics than most PhD physicists are. That's the sad state of reality, is that people put this label on people like, you're an expert, you're a PhD physicist, you must know everything. The reality is that's not how science works at all. Science is the study of observable reality. The people that can observe the effects of reality and explain it know more than the people that read stuff and claim that that's how stuff works. Again, this is as simple as observing how reality functions and understanding it versus reading a paper and thinking that whatever you read is how reality works. That's how simple it is.
Am I off? Okay. But maybe we could take this offline if it's too technical, but E fields, B fields, the kind of things you get inside of a resonant cavity.
Real quick. Gregorio here says, why would they want to hide this? Well, because if you can produce a black hole or a big bang from this, how long do you think the Earth is going to last? Secondly, if you are somebody that knows about this technology and you can profit off of it, why the hell do you want to let other people know about it? If you have insider information about stocks and stuff like that, you can make millions of dollars. If you have insider information about how to produce technology that is extremely advanced, you can make millions of dollars. Why do you think the engineers don't come forward? They don't care what you or I think. They don't care that a bunch of mainstream idiot physicists think that it's not possible. They're making millions of dollars. Why do they care? Their lives are great, and they know that there's advanced technology, and they probably get to use it. The rest of the sheep, the NPCs out there, have no idea. This is like everybody thinks that everybody's so altruistic. Like, if I paid you millions of dollars to know this, you're not going to say shit either. And if you think you are, then like you're deceiving yourself.
Gravity or with capacitors and coils are all, then none of those are exotic matter. Those are all just standard.
This guy right here does not understand the ether at all. He's like, well, but the matter's exotic. How are you producing exotic matter from normal stuff? Well, because you don't understand that it's not some mythical substance that's out there. It's simply a way of understanding where the energy comes from relative to what we see around us.
Standard mass energy, not the kind that you need for the Alcubierre metric, which has the opposite sign, which no one knows how to make.
Let me answer your question. Right.
The sign, guys, the sign in the equations is opposite. It's got a negative sign in front of it in the equations. That means it's impossible. This is like CNN brain, like, you know, patient A over here, where it's like, but the sign, when I read the equation, says it in minus. That means it's impossible. He's not thinking about it conceptually. Like, all you have to do is think about it conceptually. It just means that it's potentially an opposite repulsion effect. That's it.
Right, so we had some of this discussion actually yesterday in your office. We were talking about some of the Q thruster physics. So in terms of the Q thruster physics, we're not just looking at classical E&M. We're talking about what that potentially does in the quantum vacuum based on the physics models associated with the Q thruster physics. So with the Q thruster physics, it potentially provides a connection to a perturbed state in the quantum vacuum. So yes, just the pure E&M fields by the classical sense, they're really not of interest. What's of interest of us is what does that mean when we look at it from the Q thruster physics perspective. So that's the only reason why there's interest in that.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. If you just had the E and B fields, you would expect no exotic effect. But if you have these dielectrics or whatever inside of it, so that you're getting this strong coupling, then maybe you would see an exotic effect?
You made too strong of a statement. I think that there's, in the process of exploring what Q thruster physics means for the magnitude of E and B fields and how that might be coupled to what's potentially going on in the quantum vacuum. In principle, right, you have to have the right conditions to get the magnitude of an effect that you can measure. But you were too general with your statement, so I can't agree with you completely with.
Yeah, this guy's like, just, he doesn't, you have to understand scalar physics, and you have to understand how to manipulate gravity for a lot of this. And if you can't comprehend the Maxwell equations, then you're never, ever going to understand what we're talking about here regarding this. Yeah, for Gregorio, I don't know how to say it again to you, man, but the reality is, like, everybody is not as altruistic as you imagine they are. You know, that's how easily people are corrupted. And again, yeah, I'm talking millions of dollars, maybe even more than that. So we're talking big time money. And this is where the very few people that are super altruistic that don't see the danger, those are the people that they're gonna silence. The ones that are too idealistic, the ones that see the reality of it and then look at it from all perspectives and see that the world's not black and white. Those are the people that are going to be the ones that get that are going to be working for the government on this kind of stuff in general. You know, because that's, the world isn't as simple as everybody wants it to be. Oh, it opens up new markets. So what? So what, man? Like, you got to look at it. You're looking at it way, way too simplistically. And this is the problem that a lot of people have out there. A lot of you guys, and I don't mean to be rude, a lot of you guys look at the issue far too simplistically. Everything's black or white, good or evil. The world is not like that. The world is shades of gray. Economics is complex. There's competing narratives, competing forces everywhere out there all the time. You have to look at it as a sea of narratives, a sea of people all with their own motivations. And that's why you get to the world that we are actually living.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So we have one more question here.
Okay.
This is very, can you hear me? This is very non-technical, more of a popular science magazine type question for you, so be ambiguous if you want to. But assuming that all your measurements are not dominated by systematic noises that you might not have realized at this point, assuming that all these measurements are correct, Sorry.
I didn't hear that last part.
Oh, assuming that all these measurements are correct, that they're not dominated by noise that you haven't accounted for. Yeah. And in a fictional world where you will have funding to continue pursuing this at a comfortable level for the next 20 years, where do you envision this technology to be in 20 years' time? Is this something that will be able to...
This is a good question. Where do you envision this technology to be in 20 years? This is 10 years ago. So where does he think the technology is going to be 10 years from now? 2035. Joe says they're afraid of the layman putting it together. Exactly. I'm a layman. I'm not a PhD physicist. I was able to figure this out. I'm a healthcare IT consultant, and I was able to figure this out because all the information's out there. As many people have said, it's about putting the pieces together. Once you put the pieces together, what's out there, all of a sudden it all makes perfect sense. Everything, even the suppression, makes perfect sense. And this is why I'm doing this for you guys. I'm giving you guys the path to figure it out. You guys then are on your own to figure it out. I'm not going to spoon feed you this. A lot of people want everything spoon fed to them. If you want to know the answers, I'll tell you my opinions, and I'm very strongly believe that they're accurate. Mostly accurate. I'm still learning, but if you want to learn for yourself, that's what I'm feeding you. That's what I'm giving you guys here as well. So let's figure out where he thinks we're going to be in 10 years. My opinion is that this technology is 50 to 100 years beyond the public, which would mean even in 10 years from now, if I had not been disclosing this, if I hadn't been talking about wormholes and shit like this, the public would still have no idea 10 years from now, in my opinion. My whole goal is to try to push us forward faster, to get the information from the black projects out to the public quicker. And the way you do that isn't writing scientific papers. You wake people up. You have to wake people up to this technology being possible and real and out there. So let's see what he says.
Do you send satellites to other planets?
That's a big question. I don't have a good answer for you. Certainly you'd like to make a lot of progress, but I mean, there's no shortcuts, right? You know, it's definitely crawl, walk, run. We'll try and make as much progress as we can within the resources that we have, and basically the data is really going to drive that discussion, right? I mean, you know, in God we trust, everybody else bring data. So data is really going to drive that discussion. So I'm sorry, it's not like, you know, I can't give you a good, quick answer, but.
That's an interesting answer, because that answer tells me that he might know, actually. He might actually know the truth, and he doesn't want to say it because he can't anticipate how people are going to react. Somebody made a joke about Reddit, but this is why the government loves Reddit. Because Reddit keeps this stuff suppressed. Because the Reddit brains would say, only what I read on, what I see on CNN, only what I read in the scientific papers can be real. If it's literally, there'll be people yelling at me that if it's not peer-reviewed paper, it's not real. Those are the dumbest people on the whole planet. That's just me being honest. The people that say, the people that are like, if this is not in a peer-reviewed published journal, then it's not real. That's not how science works. And I'm just going to rag on Brian Keating and Eric Weinstein. I respect these guys. But when they come out and they try to claim that if it's not in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, that it's not real, you have literally just handicapped yourself. You've hamstrung yourself. Those are the people holding us back. You have to realize that science is not what's written on a piece of paper. Science is what we can observe in the environment. And this is what the difference between theoretical physicists and actual government engineers is. The physicists are thinking from the theoretical perspective, what can we do? The engineers are going, this is what I'm literally able to produce. Now let's try to explain it. It's fundamentally the equivalent of the conventional scientists taking conventional science and trying to work their way forward with their quantum fluctuations in the vacuum, slowly getting back to the ether and the 0-point energy, and us going from the answers and going, well, here's the answer. We're looking at the MH370 videos. This is the answers. There must be an ether, and working backwards. The physicists are working forwards theoretically with their equations, and the engineers already see the answers and what we can do, and they're working backwards. Fundamentally equivalent. Pretty funny, huh? Or sad, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts, right? So
I told you it could be ambiguous. It's fine.
Okay, please join me in thanking Dr.
Okay, and that's it, guys. So that was a great stream tonight. Wow, chat. Amazing. Yeah, the word expert has honestly lost all meaning. It really has lost all meaning out there. Any last questions, guys, before we close out? I have a new video or new song we're going to play. Let me pull it up here. I still haven't got all the songs. I still also have not updated our Discord with the new channels for you guys. I will try to get that going on for you guys here shortly. So thank you guys. I'll post a brand new Discord invite. So if people weren't looking before, they probably missed that one. Here's a new link. If anyone else wants to jump in the Discord, join the conversation, join the future, feel free. Appreciate you. Look and see. Future Ashton. Technically, this is past Ashton if you're watching the recording. So my understanding keeps getting further and further. Yeah, it's not the students' fault. That's what the teachers taught them, right? But the students of today become the teachers of tomorrow. So for Canadian Rational, just a heads up on that, man. What was that? Have you named your device yet? No, we're not to that stage yet. Tomorrow, we'll have a little announcement, guys, tomorrow. So come check it out. We're going to talk a little bit about free energy. I also think tomorrow we're going to watch The Lost Century. I think we're ready for The Lost Century now, guys. So I think we might watch Dr. Greer's thing on Rumble. We will do our announcement. I'll talk a little bit about the announcement for the first 20, 30 minutes. And then we will we'll watch The Lost Century. Because now that we understand the technology that's out there, we want to understand how has it been suppressed? What's the history of suppressing it? I have a feeling when we watch Lost Century, we're probably going to find some stuff that's bullshit in it. And we're probably going to find some stuff that's like right on the mark for how they've been hiding this from us. Because this is not 10-year-old technology. We are dealing with technology that is potentially 100 years old, that has been getting advanced and advanced and advanced behind the scenes in these black budget programs. So thank you, everybody. Have I been in touch with any congressmen? What I would say on this is that if I have been in touch with any congressmen, I probably can't talk about it. So that's probably, you can take that however you want. But, unless, if I were in touch with a congressman, I wouldn't be able to talk about it unless they said I could talk about it. What I would say is if I'm in touch with congressmen, I'm going to try to get them on my Hard Truths podcast. And that's how you'll find out about it. So unfortunately, that's all I can really say on that front, guys. So Sassy liked watching the thing. So yeah, the group discussion, the group watch or whatever you call it, I don't know. Anyway, us watching The Lost Century, I think, is going to be pretty awesome. I haven't seen it yet, but it's probably the number one thing that I have been told to watch that's out there. How long? This is a good question here. Savage asked some pretty good questions. How long until you're too pissed off that some people aren't believing you about the videos and tech? You just start building one in your garage to prove it. I believe you 100%. Well, that's why I'm doing the Overunity thing. Because, this all leads back. This is because I thought, what are the ways? So this is a great question. Because people say, well, produce the effect. Prove it to me. And I thought, well, how do we prove it? I don't have access to a super high-powered laser. And then you realize, well, you need an ether for any of this to make any sense. So if we can just prove that the ether is real, then it proves all of the science is real. So how do you prove the ether is real? Well, how about an energy device that just runs forever? How about that? Is that good enough, chat? A free energy device? So if we prove a free energy device is real, prove that the science is real, all the science we see in the MH370 videos is real, because from that, deductively, logically, is that not good enough? I have a feeling that even if we're able to sell free energy devices to people still are not going to believe that MH370 videos are real. They're going to go, well, yeah, you made a free energy device, but that doesn't mean those videos are real. Those are still CGI. It's just, there's, for some people, they're never going to believe, man. And honestly, I don't care. I'm not trying to convince everyone in the world. I keep telling them, just give me my ScarJo clone, and then I'll just go away, man. And the world can go back to sleep. Just give me that ScarJo clone. Give me that $10 million payout for shutting up about the MH370 videos. It seems cheap. $10 million to hide at least $100 billion worth of liability. That's a good trade. That's a good deal. Why doesn't AARO just get back to me, dude? Just, put the money in a suitcase and have it appear in my car. When I get into my car tomorrow, just have there be a suitcase full of $100 bills in the back. I'll get the message. All of a sudden, my YouTube channel just goes completely dark. You guys are like, where the hell did Ashton go? If my YouTube channel goes dark, guys, then you'll know. The suitcase full of money appeared in the back of my car. The ether is real, chat. 100%. The ether is real. No doubt. No doubt, guys. It's real. We're going to rage build an Overunity device, guys. We're going to rage build some orbs. Guys, we're actually going to be talking to Professor Simon Powell as well pretty soon here. I don't know when the video is going to drop, probably this weekend. We're going to talk about the orbs. Like, guys, I found even more shit about the plasma physics in the orbs. Like, those are literally real orbs that we're seeing there. And the part is nobody knew about this shit. Like, nobody knew about it. Ching, ching. Dollar bill, y'all. Dollar bill. Hook it up. Honestly, I want to hook up my family. You know, my family, man, we're not like super well off. Like my family could really appreciate some of that money, man. Really could. Okay, guys. Yeah, Arrow. Yo, I'm serious, man. I'm joking, but I'm serious. Make it happen. You want to make the MH370 case go away, you know? Dollar bill, y'all. Okay, guys. I'm going to go to sleep. You guys have a great one. It's been awesome. MH370X. 4 orbs. My 4 orbs fam. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys appreciate the truth. We will get the truth out there to people for sure. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And this is why I'm arming you guys. So if anything did happen to me, if I disappeared, well, you guys know the truth. You can figure it out, man. So good night, MH370X. Peace, everybody. Later.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Bearden, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Bearden, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Controls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Bearden, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Bearden, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting